we're going to go through some presentations with you today. We're going to teach you how to use the new portal. Some of you may have been grantees in the past where we used a different process, and we've just gone to an electronic portal where everything's all electronic, our review's electronic, and so we want to go through that with you on how to use that, how you're going to submit those monthly invoices. Then we will break for lunch, and then we will come back, and we're going to do what we call a hands-on activity. So we're going to go through, I'm going to give you some sample documentation and a PER form, and we're going to go through calculating and how to put together an invoice based on the documentation. We'll talk through the documentation because I know everybody's documentation is not the same. It doesn't all look the same. And so I want to show you what I'm looking for when we're going through documentation. So when you get back to your organization and you're putting this together, you'll be able to say, okay, does it have this? Does it have this? Does it have this? Okay, good. She should be able to use this. And then we'll do that, and then we'll end the day. We will be available afterwards. I know Andre had said everybody, if you were able to, bring a sample of your invoice or any of your questions. So after the training, we'll be available to sit down one-on-one. If we don't answer your question, or if you just have something you'd like to meet with us about and talk about. Go ahead and get everybody else to sit down, and then we will get started.
When you're ready to speak, they're going to take the mic that you have right there, and I'm just going to talk into it.
Like you are.
Okay.
Thank you, Vendor. What they're giving you is the PowerPoint slides. I wanted everybody to have those. I know in the past, we tried to get away from the paper. And I'm a finance person, so paper is my thing. And I'm old school, so I love paper. Nothing is better to me than being able to go to the file and say, boom, here you go. So I love it. And going through these presentations and not having it in front of you, I know it kind of gets frustrating. You're like, what did they say? And so I wanted to make sure you guys have those up front so you can take your notes. There's some white paper in the middle of your tables. And so I put that there, but if you have questions throughout the presentation, I'd like you guys to just go ahead and write it on there. And at the end of the presentation, we'll go through. I find that sometimes a lot of the questions start coming up, and we're going to get to it. And I don't want to not cover some of the material. So if you'll go ahead and write your question on there, at the end of the presentation, I'll collect those. We'll get the questions answered. Again, we're going to do those in office hours is what we call them afterwards if you want to do a one-on-one with us. Okay? So, again, I am Tracy Lambright. I am the Deputy Finance Director with Volunteer Florida. I'm joined here today with my two new financial analysts. Both of us, this is Janelle Jones. She's been with us for a little over a year. And this is Elizabeth Ellison. Both of them, she's actually only been here 2 months. 2 months, going on 3 months.
Very new.
So she's very, very new. She, this past year, started off as a volunteer generation fund analyst. So we have 3 analysts within our department, and we break them up to do certain types of funding. And then we kind of move them around so everybody gets the feel for, how to manage each of the different types of grants, like we do state grants, federal grants. We have private grants through the Florida Disaster Fund, so we also do those as well. Discount DCMP, which is for hurricanes through FEMA. So we also manage money like that. So we kind of spread the analysts around, we move them around so everybody gets a chance to learn. So Elizabeth has done that in this last year. And so she's going to be transferring over to do AmeriCorps grants now. And Janelle is going to take over as the financial analyst for the Volunteer Generation Fund. She in the past has always done the disaster fund. So the federal realm is going to be new for her. So we're going to welcome her into that. But just a quick thing for me, I want everybody to, we're going to kind of introduce ourselves real quick and then we'll get going. I got my degree from Florida State University, Finance and Accounting. I have worked 16 years in state government. I've been with Volunteer Florida for 7 years, so we're kind of quasi-state. And then before that, I worked 5 years in a nonprofit. So I've got several years of experience managing all types of grants, contract management, everything under the sun. So I'm kind of like a do-all at Volunteer Florida as well, and I handled HR also, and those type of functions and payroll and things like that as well. So I will let Elizabeth come over and introduce herself real quick.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth. I just graduated from Flagler College, and I'm currently getting my MBA at UWF. Before this, I worked at the Department of Health, and now I'm transferring over to the finance world. So,
And we are happy to have her.
Hello, I'm
Janelle.
Janelle Jones. Originally from Tallahassee, Florida, born and raised. I've had 22 years experience in banking with loan operations, client accounting. And so, like she said, I've been with Volunteer Florida for a year and a half. My associate's degree at Tallahassee Community College, and I'm glad to be with Volunteer Florida.
Well, we're happy to have her as well. We have a great finance team. Like I said, we've got our CEO, we've got 3 financial analysts. I'm the deputy finance director, and then we also have a part-time consultant that helps us out with the big stuff, kind of, managing changes and things that we want to do. And she's part-time, and she works outside in Clearwater. So we have a nice big team. We're able to, organize things and keep everything out and train everybody. So we have a wealth of knowledge in all the different type of grants. So we're excited. This is kind of the biggest year we've had because finance, back when I first started, there was one of us, and that was me. And so, and then maybe a year later, we got 2 of us, and then it was 2 of us for like 2 or 3 years. And so, we've been able to grow, of course, with more funding, which is great. And so we've been able to grow, which has been great. So we're happy to be here and happy to have all of you guys. Congratulations. And we look forward to giving you all the information you guys are going to need to be successful. As always, and our contact information will be on the bottom slide. But if you guys have any questions, you need any of our assistance, you let us know anytime. Don't hesitate to reach out to us. Don't not communicate with us. Communication is a big, big, big thing. Communicate with us if you're having some issues, if you're not able to, submit invoices, let us know, because, not having that communication with us, we don't know what's going on, and we don't want to assume different things if there's something else we can do to help you to get that grant moving forward. We want you to move these funds. These funds aren't a lot of funds for what you guys do. I know that, you probably could use a lot more than what you're getting, and so we want you to get that benefit. We want you to get these funds, and we want to get them out to you. So help us help you, okay? All right, before we get started, just real quick, I'd like to go around real quick, and if you just introduce yourself and let me know who you're with, we'll just do that real quickly, and then we'll move on, okay? You want to go start right here? I can move you to the table.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Linda Sun. I am the Executive Director of Scholarship Coaching.
Good morning, I'm Bailey Gage. I'm Assistant Finance Manager at the Jacksonville Municipality.
My name is Jennifer Gus. I'm the volunteer coordinator at Personal Foundation.
My name is Ralph Salvis. I work in the Florida Veterans Foundation as a Veterans Case Manager at Tallahassee.
Welcome.
I'm
Gina.
Griffin, Director of Development for Junior Achievement of the Palm Beaches and Treasure Coast.
I'm Carmen Smith. I'm the Executive Director of Chipola Area Habitat for Humanity, serving Jackson, Washington County. And I too am born and raised in Tallahassee.
Jennifer Bowser. I'm the Executive Director of Arcadia DeSoto County Habitat for Humanity, born and raised in Pennsylvania. So.
Hi, good morning. I'm Dorothy Blackwell. I'm the Development Assistant for Volunteers and Service to the Elderly University and Veterans Health.
Good morning, I'm Rebecca Landis-Mean. I work at Lakeland Volunteers in Medicine in Lakeland, Florida, and I am the Grants and Finance Manager there.
Welcome. Go ahead.
Good morning, I'm Kaylin Woodward. I am serving as the project analyst for Gold Specimen Marine Lab in Panacea. Born and raised in McCullough County.
That's where I live, McCullough County. Yep, we come there often. My son lives it there, so.
Okay. Hello, I'm Linda Waterworth. I'm Children First. I'm the database director, and I'm from Sarasota, Florida. And I've never been to Tallahassee.
Well, we have to get you up there.
Hello, my name is Des Castellanos. I'm the Financial Data Analyst representing Big Bend Hospital Foundation. I'm not from Tallahassee, born and raised in South Florida, but been in Tallahassee for 10 years. So, thank you.
Good morning, Christy King here with Hope Partnership. We're actually right up the street here in Kissimmee, Florida, and I'm the director of policy and grant management at Hope Partnership. We're working to make sure everyone is safe and well.
Welcome. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Anita Bernstein, and I'm with Residents Christian Living Association, and we're working with this work. Good morning, everyone. My name is Gladys May. Work together in any steps with the Residents Christian Living Association, and the market for it.
Nice little word.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Ortiz, I'm the council and the operations.
Good morning, my name is Tom Melville. I'm the executive director for the Literacy Council.
Hi, I'm Leah Reardon, and I'm the grant finance manager for the Boys and Girls Club of Full Town.
Okay, I'm Robin Messina. I'm the executive director of the Sawgrass Nature Center and Wildlife Hospital in Coral Springs, Florida.
And we're gonna come down there.
Yes, I'm excited.
I'm Anita Bushenfeld, I'm the CFO for Kids Incorporated of the Big Bend, and you'll never believe where I'm located. I'm Jenny Longo, I'm the Associate Director of Finance at the Sharing Center, which is in Longwood, here in Iowa. We live in Holland. 2 years ago when I came back to Central Florida. Love it.
Welcome.
My name is Crystal Mays, I'm the Finance Director for Boys and Girls Club.
I'm Martin Discipline, I'm the controller for operation meetings for Texas.
All right, great. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. The reason I do that is because I want you guys to know your peers. There are several of you that I have seen over, the last year or two. So they're going to be very good resources for a lot of the new grantees. So make sure that you guys, talk with one another, make those connections because, they're going to have a lot of knowledge for you on how they're making their programs work. Okay. Also, another reason I do that is because I want everybody to know that, for these things to work, you've got to have that communication. I know that I mentioned that in the beginning, communication. You cannot stress that enough. And that's also within your organizations, even like with your program staff as well. For the grant to run smoothly and for you to get these funds, you guys have to have that communication internally as well. And a lot of our bigger grants, they don't have that communication. And you got the finance person that's over here in this building that's just running over here. And then this person's over here. And they're in the day-to-day operations. They know what this thing needs, for this ship to run. But the finance person's over here and they're not talking. And this one doesn't know how much money they have left. And so, that doesn't make for a lot of organization. It does not help to not have that communication together, to know where you are with that, where we are in spending that. Is this grant going to, these grants are a lot smaller. Is this grant going to last us the full 12 months? When you put those budgets together in the beginning, you're just kind of forecasting, well, we think that this is what they're going to do. And then you get into the year and something happens and you're now doing this full time where you budgeted, I might just do 20% of my time and do this so that we can stretch that $20,000 over a few, the 12 months. And you realize that you're actually doing, maybe 80% of your time or 100% of your time. And you're about to spend this grant out in about 3 months, So that's where that internal communication comes into place. So you can say, whoa, we need to figure out because, this grant's not going to last us this long. So if that's your intention to stretch it out, you're going to want to keep that communication together so that you can say, okay, you're doing, you need to do 20% of your time. If you don't, we're not going to have this funding. We're not going to do that. So that's where that big communication and staying in touch with one another. In our organization, we get with our program staff on all of the grants. So the VGF, we get with AmeriCorps, Disaster Fund. We do CERT grants, which are emergency management grants. And we hold budget to actual meetings every single month. And we get with the program managers. We let them know where every single grantee is every single month. Audrey will stay in constant communication with you guys. She does very, very well with getting you what you need, getting you the information, reminding you, and we'll stay in contact. So, we reach out with that communication, and we want you to get that back with us as well. So again, if at all that you run into any problems, you have any questions, you reach out to any of us, and we'll be able to assist you. Okay? All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Today's session objectives, of course, we want to learn your keys to grants and contract compliance, the importance of budget analysis, and the revision process that we talked about earlier. This is a little bit light on the screen. Learning the key dates for reporting and invoicing, understanding invoice processing steps, and what the required documentation is going to be. And then if you guys have questions about the travel, we can go through that as well. I tried, it's kind of high level and the bigger because we don't have much time. So if you still have some questions, we can do that at the end as well. Okay, well. It doesn't want to work, so we'll just do this. All right, your keys to contract compliance. Of course, you want to follow all OMB and Code of Federal Regulations. These were provided in your contract provisions. How many of you got to see the contract provisions? Okay, it's really good for you to do that, again, so that you know what the requirements are. These are federal funds, so there are certain things that you can do, cannot do with the federal funds. So it's really good for you to know that information. Pay attention to due dates and required reporting, all of that we talked about this morning, the 15th of the month. Just remember, 15th of the month, there's always something due. And that is your reimbursement. So if you want your money, you're going to get that invoice in on the 15th of the month. Be familiar with your exhibits. The exhibits 1 through 9 were also part of your contract package. Those are things like your EFT form, your W-9, the reimbursement, budget revision form, your contract provisions, your contract, all of those. So make sure you're familiar with all of that. If you need to make any changes, I'm going to say this from the finance point. If you need to make any changes to your EFT form, most of our payments are electronic. It gets the payments to you right away. So please keep that information updated as soon as if you make a change, let us know as soon as you do. I've had 2 instances in this past year where I issued a payment today, and later on today, I got an updated form for an ACH. So I sent the funds to a wrong bank. They had already closed the account, and so then I had to wait for the funds to come back to the bank, change the information, and get it out. So it just, we're going to get them back to you. You're not going to lose it. But, it just kind of takes a little bit more time for us to get the funds out to you. So just make sure that you try to stay on top of that and make sure that that's something you do right away if you guys run into doing any of that. Doesn't happen often, but it's happened a couple times this year. So again, the fiscal online training that Audrey had talked about. She said most of you had. I just want to do a reminder in my session. It is required for those to be on file before I can start issuing payments to you guys. So if there is an entity that has not done them, she'll let me know, and I have to hold the reimbursements until those are done. So just make sure that you guys have completed that requirement. Why do we want to comply? Of course, we want to comply with federal guidelines. We do not want audit findings. Every year we get audits. Some of you also might get audits every year. So you want to make sure that you're complying because you don't want audit findings. Audit findings bring on paybacks and not good stuff. And so we don't want any of that for any of you guys. We watch our things very closely. That's why the documentation becomes very, very imperative that it is correct because we also get our audits. And so they go through us with a fine-tooth comb, every single year. The corporation also does it, and they say that it's random, but typically every year we get that audit. So the federal non-compliance with background checks is we've gotten away from being able to have any of those type of things. I still mention it just in case that because we're running all of those for you, if you don't notify Audrey in time, and that person's already started on the grant, and then she goes to run the background checks. We have to adjust the start date of the timing that you can start claiming your time on the grant. So we want to make sure that those are done, as soon as that either somebody is vacating that position and bringing somebody in. That way we don't have to do any of that adjustment and that you lose out on any of that those salary dollars. Consequences of late invoices, this is also in your contracts. Again, a delay of reimbursement. There's a right of payment forfeiture. If you are constantly turning in invoices late for no reason and you're not communicating with us, there is that right. We've never had to do that to anybody. It is in there. But that's why I stress, communication. If you're having some issues, let us know so we don't think you're just not turning in anything and not trying to spend the dollars. And again, consequences of incorrect invoices, which would mean not calculating things correctly or not providing the documentation that is needed. That is going to delay your reimbursement. We'll talk about invoice processing steps in here just a minute, and so you'll see that we have policies and procedures and timelines for how those are done. And if things are not done or resolved within a certain time period, we take off what we can't pay, we pay you what we can, and we move on. We used to not do that, and then I started ending up with 6 months of invoices over here that have never been resolved, and you haven't got payments, and so we can't, it's not productive for us. It's not productive for you guys. Again, we want to push that money out as fast as we can. Again, allowable. The main thing I want to read here is it included in your budget? Sometimes someone may call and say, hey, we want to get this database, but I don't have it in my budget. What can we do? Well, it's not in your budget, so you can't purchase it today. However, if that's what you really want to do, we need to do a budget revision immediately. We need to move you some funds to that line item so that you can go purchase it. Don't do it and then come back and say, hey, I'd like to claim the database that we bought 2 weeks ago, because if there's not a budget revision in place and it hasn't been approved, you're not going to be able to claim those expenditures for that database, okay? So just keep that in mind. I know that these are small grants. Again, you've only got salary, personnel fringe, or database. I even think I have one this year that's nothing but database cost. So I didn't even build in anything for salary or whatever. So, if they run into, and when you do a budget, you're forecasting. So they may get to where they may be able to say that their database didn't cost that much and they're going to have extra money. So they may want to do a budget revision to say, hey, now we want to charge some of the salary dollar to the grant so we can get those funds, So just always remember, it has to be in your budget. If it's not and you intend to do it, make sure that revision is done and in place beforehand. Must be reasonable and allocable, which are all things that are mentioned in the code, the CFR 200, which is provided in those contract provisions. Those are the regulations that manage these federal grants for AmeriCorps. Should be consistent. They should be within your policies and procedures. Not used as cost to meet cost sharing or matching requirements. So you can't use any of these funds to match other grants. The AmeriCorps funding is one of those grants that does not allow you to use federal funds or their funds to match other federal grants. So keep that in mind. And then make sure everything is documented. Documented. I can't say that enough either. Communication and documentation. Again, I told you, I'm finance, I love paper. The more and more you give us, the better we are. When we do these invoices, we want to make sure that every piece of documentation is there. If you're not sure that I need a piece of documentation, submit it. If we don't need it, we'll let you know, hey, we don't need this from, moving forward. But the more and more you give us, the better that we have in our initial review so that we can push those funds out to you. The idea is to just get that money. Give me your invoice, let us process it, give you your money. That way you're not sitting for months waiting on the reimbursement from us. Because it takes time for us to get into the review. It takes time for us to come back and say, hey, we need this. And then it may take time for you guys to get that because you may not have that. Documentation, and it may take you time to be able to get that to us. So that time just keeps ticking and ticking and ticking. So document. All right, one big thing in this grant is that timesheets are a requirement. Some of the, I know some organizations, especially smaller organizations, don't typically do timesheets internally. And we understand that. However, for this grant, timesheets are required. So in your packets that you got with your agenda and all of that, in the back there is a sample timesheet that Volunteer Florida has put together. Audrey will send that template to all of you. If you do not use timesheets, we suggest that you use our timesheet. It has every piece of information that we need for it to be an allowable documentation, and it follows all of the protocols and everything, rules that we need. So it has to track. So if you do have an internal system, we want to make sure it tracks it on an after-the-fact basis and it counts for your total time. So you have to, when you claim your time on these grants, you claim based on your actual time worked. So even though you budgeted 20% of your timesheet is really going to be what you're going to be able to claim. So if your timesheet, you filling that out every day and you come to 10% of your time, you're going to claim 10%. If you're doing your timesheet and you work 25% of your time, you're going to do 25%, but we're going to go by what that timesheet says, not what your budget says, okay? So you want to make sure that can track your time. It must be signed and dated by the employee and the supervisor, and we want dates as well. Some people sign them without dates, and then again, we've got to send it back. So we're going to need that as well. We need them, it says at least monthly and coincides with one or more pay period. We need them for every pay period. So your timesheet should go with your pay period. So if your pay period is October 1 to October 15, your timesheet should be October 1 to October 15, okay? It has a certification statement. If you notice on our sample, there's a certification statement at the below that says, you attest that certify the time is true and correct. And then you sign it, your supervisor signs it. That's all we need, okay? And we'll go more into that into our example to show you that. But you do have that option to use our timesheet, and Audrey will make sure you guys have that electronic. Yes, electronic signatures are allowed on the timesheet. So we will accept those as long as they have that, the employee, the date, supervisor, date, okay? Again, match is waived for this year. They want us to mention this just in case the corporation, AmeriCorps, changes any of those provisions within the year. And so if they do, then we hold the right to change contract amendments and then hold you to that match. Has not happened in the previous years, but we just want to let you know that if it does happen, we will have to do contract amendments and then that'll come into play. But hopefully that isn't. Now I've heard that next year that component is actually going to be coming back. And so there'll be more on that as we go, but enjoy this year because it honestly, from our standpoint, it has helped us, aid us in our reviews to get those out quicker to you because it's less documentation that we're having to do. But I mean, we all know what the benefit of, doing it is, but we'll keep you posted on any of that. Again, this is the reviewing your budget to actual expenditures on a regular basis. We talked about that. You want to try to avoid overruns and shortfalls. You don't want to not spend your money, and you don't want to overrun your money. I mean, if you intend for this grant to last you 12 months, you watching this on a continually monthly basis. We do monthly. I mean, if you feel that more often is something that that's more beneficial for you, then that's what we ask you to do that. But monitoring is the only way that you'll make sure that doesn't happen. We do, again, get with Audrey every single month, go through with her so she knows where you're at. We let her know what percentages you should be at certain points in the grant year. She compares those to your expenditures, and she will write you and let you know, hey, you should be at 25% spent right now and you're 10% spent, give me a plan. So she does really well with that too. Give me a plan, communicate. Okay. All right. So now we're back to the important dates. Everybody knows the grant period is October 1st to September 30th. So any expenses that you claim on this grant have to fall within that period. Your monthly invoices, again, the 15th of the month, that's the big time, monthly invoices and your supporting documentation. And then this last piece we didn't mention, this is final financial reports and closeouts are due within 45 calendar days after the end of the contract. So your contract ends September 30th. So October 15th, your September invoice will be due to us. That is essentially your last invoice, okay? The 45 days final report that we talk about is one extra report that we allow you to file with us just in case you have that weird biweekly payroll that you worked, that ran from, September 30th to, October 14th, and you paid it in October. So because it was paid in October, you can't claim that on a September invoice, even though the time was worked in September. and we'll go through that too. So you would need that final invoice to be able to claim that one last day of that one last, September 30th time on that. Or also we use it if I've had to remove something from an invoice in the past, like maybe your database or, your health insurance, you haven't been able to get us, proper documentation and we've removed that. You can use that final invoice to recoup any other expenditures that you were not previously reimbursed for throughout that year. Okay. So it's different. It's different than that September invoice. It's really like the 13th invoice. Some people have it, some people don't. At the end of the year, you send us your September invoice. If you're not going to do a final, you just let us know. Hey, we don't have a final invoice. This is it. You spend your grants out a little bit early. We're going to know right off, we monitor those reports as well. A lot of people let us know, hey, we're done. Contact Audrey. You can get her the rest of her reporting and we can go ahead and close that grant out. Okay. Because, she's got her 2 reports every year as well. Again, that's just one more important due date. And just so you guys know, that 45 days after the contract period ends, that date is always November the 14th. So that's the only one that's not the 15th. So that 45 days is November 14th. If the 15th or that 14th falls on a Saturday or Sunday, you have until that next business day. So if the 15th is on Saturday, you have until Monday, the 17th, to get that information into us and not be considered late. Again, if you're going to be late, send a quick email to either Audrey or the financial analyst and say, hey, documentation hasn't come in. I'm going to be a couple days, or I've been out. I'm on vacation for the next 2 weeks and I need an extension. We're happy to give that information to you or give that, time to you. We just want you to communicate, let us know so that we're not kind of like, hey, they didn't turn it in. Where are they at? So just let us know. All right. Everybody good for right now? Everybody good? Okay. Invoice processing steps. So, wanted to go through. So what happens is you guys will upload into the Laserfish portal, is what it's called, Laserfish. We'll get an email letting us know that you've submitted it. We will get it into our queue for review. We review things as they're received, one at a time, of course. And we do full reviews for all the VGF. Once the analyst has reviewed, and if everything is 100% there, it is then sent over to me and said, here, make this payment. If there's a question, if some of the calculations don't quite match our calculation, we're going to reach out to you. If, for instance, say you put 20% in your budget and you work 30% of your time, and so on your invoice you put only the 20% of the time because that's what you budgeted, which you have every right to do that, and we will allow you to do that. But you have to let us know that that's what you're doing. Hey, I know we work 30% of our time there, but if I do that, I'm going to run out of money. So we only want to claim 20%. Make a quick note on that PER. Only claiming 20%. That way we know that you guys know that you didn't do the calculation incorrectly. Because when we do it and we're like, oh, well, that's 30% of the time. Why didn't they claim the 30%? Okay. You letting us know, hey, I know it's 30%. We only want to claim the 20. We're good. Now, if we don't get that note, we won't know, and we're going to reach out to you and say, hey, we did the calculations, and this is what you can claim. And then you guys, then we'll wait for you to let us, send us back and let us know. So if you do that up front, it saves that step, because sometimes the calculations are a little incorrect, and, we want to make sure you get all the money out that you can get when you first, get it. We don't want to get to the end of the year and say, well, man, you've got $7,000 left in there. And I'm like, well, maybe we can go back through your invoices and see if there's some money, you claim. So we try to do that proactively up front instead of, at the end and seeing that you have money left and then seeing what we could do about maybe going back and claiming more things. So if you're going to do that, it's fine. Just let us know. What is not okay is if you put that I was going to work 20% of my budget and your timesheet said 15% and you claim 20%. Okay? So you can't claim budgeted. It's always going to be based on your actual. So again, just communicate with us. Let us know. You can make notes in that PER. When we go through Laserfish, we're going to show you how to combine all of that, because in Laserfish, the great thing about that is you're not going to attach 50 different documents. You're going to go in PDF and you're going to combine everything into one big PDF and you're going to submit it. And so in there, you can put notes, you can put a copy of an email, you can put stick in a little page with a little note on there for me. Hey, Tracy, hey, Janelle, I'm going to, we're only going to claim 20%. We know it's 30, that way we know that you know that. Our goal is to just make sure that you're getting what you can get, and get that out to you. Again, document, this is my document. We give you 5 days. So if I got to come back to you and tell you, hey, we don't have payroll documents, we're going to send that back to you, and you're going to have 5 business days to get that back to us. And it'll be 5 business days from the date that email goes out to you. So now you'll have 5 business days to get that documents to us, upload them back into the portal on our update portal. And then those will come back to us, and then we'll go through the review process. When that happens, it may slow down the timing of your reimbursement. But in your contracts, typically we try to say it's a 45-day is what our contracts say, that from the date that you submit a good invoice to us, that we will review, process, and get your payment out to you within those days. All right, and so document. Any questions there?
I have one. So we don't have to charge each month for exactly what we put on the grant. I understand that, right? We don't have to do a change order if we're doing more hours in a month than.
No, because what's going to happen is that like I said, it's based on actual time, so it's not based on your budget. The only thing is you have to watch is if you are consistently working more time, then you're going to run out of those funds, quicker than what you had anticipated. But no, you do not have to. Because it's based on those. Now, if you're doing more time and you don't want to claim that because you want to stretch the grant out again, that's fine. But no, it has to be based on actual time. Okay.
Kind of going back to timesheet. So if the person, including in this grant, usually do not clock in and out, however, I guess you can say kind of salary of exams, but they do work 40 hours or more. And then we follow the timesheet that you provide, putting the 8 hours. So then you would have the timesheet, your timesheet, the pay stub, and the reimbursement document. Would that be sufficient?
Yes, and we're going to go through that in our example here pretty soon. So let me move on that. All right, so right now, how are we doing on time, ladies? 11. Perfect. All right, good. All right, so right now we're going to go through the PER documentation. And that's going to kind of give you an idea of what that required documentation looks like. So for section 1 is your personnel expenses. And again, timesheets signed by the employee, supervisor. Clearly no VGF hours. That's another thing I want to mention. If you're using your own timesheets, we've got to see which hours are VGF. So if you're, somebody may be getting allocated to maybe administration or maybe doing, volunteer work or certain, things like that. So when you look at our timesheet, the sample that they give you in Word, it's in Word, you can add whatever those allocations are directly on and use our timesheet. Or if you're going to use your own timesheet, make sure whatever you report on there shows us the difference between those hours. Yeah.
So we modified our time sheets already, but I have more like a volunteer support, volunteer management, with that 2 staff positions. Is that adequate, or do you want to see like VGF?
No, that'll be adequate. Just let us know which one it is. If you've called it something else, you just need to know, hey, the time for this grant is billed under volunteer management. That way we know.
And then you mentioned a certification statement. We have federal standards. I certify these are the hours. So it's just for the whole time sheet, not say this is VGF.
No, just for the whole time sheet. Yep. Okay. All right, and then payroll documentation. Payroll documentation can be a payroll register, or it could actually be copies of the pay stubs, pay warrants, whatever. Some people call them warrants, some people call them stubs. It cannot be a general ledger. That is the only thing we request not to get is a general ledger, because you all know in accrual-based accounting, we accrue our expenditures, but that doesn't necessarily mean we paid for those expenditures. So that's why a general ledger cannot be constituted a proof of payment. So it has to actually be those payroll journals or the payroll warrants or pay stubs. On those pay stubs, there must be the pay date, and on the payroll journals, and it also must have the pay periods. That way we can match the pay periods on the timesheet to the pay periods on the pay stubs or the payroll journals. And then we use the pay date to make sure that you paid it within the month. So the one thing that I forgot to mention was that these are cost reimbursement grants, which I'm sure we've mentioned that on our contract webinar and in your contracts. They're cost reimbursement, which means each month you can only claim what you paid in that month. So in October, you can only claim any payroll or fringe benefits or database software expenses that were paid for in the month of October. So if you have the funky biweekly payroll like we did, we're going to have a pay, I think, on 11/5, okay? But some of that time was worked in October. But because it was paid on 11/5, it has to go on a November invoice, okay? So just remember, cost reimbursement means cash basis, basically, right? So you're accruing things in the accrual-based world, but when you're asking for reimbursement, it's on a cash basis. It's what you paid within that month. Something else I want to note for, not necessarily for payroll, but for fringe benefits or for database, say you use a credit card to make your payment. So you go to Blue Cross Blue Shield or Florida Blue online and you use your MasterCard and you make your guys' monthly payment on October 15th. And now they've gotten, so Florida Blue has been paid, but you really now owe the credit card company for that money you just spent. So the proof of payment when using a credit card is based off of when you pay your credit card bill. So if you don't pay an October expense until November, if you don't pay your credit card bill until November 1st, November 15th, that bill cannot be claimed until your November invoice. Checks, we go by the date that the check is written. So if you're paying by check, giving us a copy of the check that's noting the invoice that matches the dollar amount on the invoice that you've given us, we go by the check date on there. Fringe benefits, same thing here. Payroll registers will tell us about FICA. So on your payroll registers, as long as you've got the FICA withholdings, we use that as your proof of payment. Healthcare benefits, dental, retirement, workers' comp, anything that you've built into there, we'll need an invoice, some type of invoice that shows what it is they're charging you. I know like with healthcare, it's usually they give you a listing of the employees and how much you're paying for each of those employees. And that's what we would need to see so that when you're doing calculations that we know if you've done 20% of your time, we need to be able to say, okay, they paid $700, 20% of your time, they can claim, $140. And then again, proof of payment, copies of checks, your ACH debit. I know sometimes people pay stuff online, and you may do it directly through your bank account, and that's great. You don't have to wait for, the credit card statement to come in and then pay the credit card statement to claim those expenses. So if you get a printout of that, either from the website with a confirmation number and it shows the date, the amount you paid and what it was for, that can be your proof of payment. And then again, checks as well. Everything goes by that date. Same thing for database software. The invoice must clearly identify the purchases. Database software, I wanted to note that sometimes people purchase that for a year, some of the software. And so we want to make sure that year falls within our contract year. So if you get a database software and you purchase it October 1 and it goes from October 1 to 9/30, great. You can claim that whole entire thing. But if you get a database software that you purchase like in July, that goes in through June, the only portion of that you can claim for the VGF is going to be the portion that's under the contract year. So that would be October 1 through June 30th. And then if you renew that, then you can do your July, your August, and your September of your new payment, and you would just provide that new documentation.
So if we purchase a database software for 2 years in advance, because we're using VGF to pay for the first year, we can just pay the portion out that we allow for VGF.
Yep, that falls within this contract year. So if it, as long as it falls between October 1st and September 30th of 2022. Yep. All right. All right. Are there any questions about documentation? Yes.
For the signature, does it have to be handwritten, scanned, and submitted, or can we still just type it in?
Yes, you can do electronic signatures. Yep.
One other thing, and I don't know if this is just on my computer, but for the invoice, when I look at the invoice on my computer, I see the signature line. When I print it, I don't get the signature line. So I mean, I've been doing like, hard copy signature on the thing, but I just didn't know if that was a glitch on my end or.
No, it's a big.
Okay.
If this is in Excel, if
Yes.
you copy the cells and you copy and you paste that into Adobe PDF, you can just add a blank page. It'll do it there. So the signature will stay if you copy all the cells on the page and you just click copy and then you paste it onto a blank page in Adobe, and it'll capture the whole thing.
Either way, I can also take a look at that in the Excel because when I pull it up, the signature thing is there.
I know. I mean, when I can see it, but then
when you print it, it's not there.
So I see that.
Okay. Well, and we may get away from that anyway because we're going to show you how, because in Laserfish, we're going to do the whole, combine everything into one PDF. So we may not need a new, to look back at that form. You'll be able to fill out the form the way you need it on the screen because you can see everything on the screen, put everything in there. And then we'll show you, I'm going to actually show you in the activity this afternoon how to combine all those into one PDF. So it may take that problem away. So we'll take a look at it. If not, I'll let Audrey know and we'll see if we can figure out why it does it that way. But you're not really going to have to print it and all that. We want, the whole idea of this system is to make it easier, not only for us, but for you guys as well. So, yes.
So about 41% of schools are in charge through VGF. Can we build our VGF first and then eventually go to the other grants? Because that was one of the questions the finance director wanted to ask. So rather than having her doing half and half all the time for auditing purposes, she wanted to just kind of focus on one grant, and then when that grant's finished, then she can transition from each other.
So you can do that. That's kind of that's your internal thing. For our purpose, it's gonna just have to be reported to us that way.
Okay.
So she's gonna have to. If you want to go ahead and do it out, then just make sure that her timesheets show those times so that those can be paid up. Remember, it's based on actual time spent on the grant. So if you want to go ahead and spend that out, you're gonna do more than 20%, right? I would assume.
Yeah, I'm following. Explain it to her properly.
Yeah, it has to be actual, based on actual time. So, if that's what you're wanting to do is try to expense out the VGF first, then you have to make sure that she is working those times and it's reported on the timesheet that way. All right, any other questions? All right, we're gonna have one more section here on budget revisions that we talked about, that great budget revision form. When filling out the budget revision form, you want to complete your agency name, program name, and the date submitted. All of that information's at the top and at the bottom. Make sure that it's signed and dated. Remember, signed and dated. We got to have those on there. On the budget revision request form, let me see, I think I have that I can pull up for you. real quick. It's probably not going to show very well on the screen, right? No, it's not going to show. Okay. Well, I tried. Weird. Okay. All right. Well, I was going to try that, but it's not.
Same, the screen same for the moment.
Did it?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know what it's doing. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to move on from that. It's in your contract documents. And we're actually going to go through one in the exercise this afternoon. So you guys will be able to see it again as well. But just to kind of quickly go over it. So in your budget revision request form, there are columns for your original budget. There are columns for your budget changes. And then there's columns that are titled revised budget. So whenever you do one of these, you're going to put in your original budget. Your original budget is going to be whatever you were approved for. So that's going to be with your contract. You will enter that information into your original budget lines. Make sure it totals out to what your budget is. Then you'll go to your budget changes. You're going to enter negatives and positives based on, that equal out to zero based on what you're moving. So I'm going to move $1,000 from salary to FICA. You're going to provide a justification that shows the calculation for that. It's going to show zero in the budget changes section because you don't want it to be negative or positive because you're just moving funds around. You're saying, I'm going to take this from this one and I'm going to put it over here. So they should zero out. And then what it's going to do is calculate a revised budget for you. And then once that's approved, that is now your new budget. That original budget is now gone. And once that's approved, the revised budget is now your budget. That if you do budget number 2, you will take that revised budget and put that information in your original budget, do your budget changes, and then it'll give you a new revised budget. Again, we're going to go through an activity with it. So you guys will be able to see that a little bit better on how to do that later this afternoon. Again, grantees must sign it and date it. Send it to Audrey, which is your program manager. She will get with us. We will go through it. She'll approve it. We'll ask questions if we need anything. And then once it's approved, it becomes your budget, and then you can go and do what you were going to do. So like if you were moving some costs to database and we finally approved it, and then you can go and buy your database. Then it would be allowable for you to claim on the grant. What is okay. You must submit a justification. The justification, we want to have an equation. So, and the reason why you want to do this, why do you want to move some of your funds to database, or why do you want to move some of your database funds to personnel? And I mean, it may be simple. Just the database didn't cost us as much as we thought it would. Debbie's working a lot more on the grant than we thought she was going to work on. We need more money in fringe benefits because healthcare went up. That's every year, right? So it can be that simple, and then just provide us an equation for how that calculation is coming, just like you did when you did your original budgets. Again, you get a maximum of 4. Typically, most people don't need a 4. Usually with these smaller grants, there may be 1, maybe 2. But June 1st is your last date to turn one in before the final quarter. Remember that we would not like to see database costs towards the end of the grant because these funds are really being given to you to use within the grant year. So if you're trying to buy a database software at the end of the year, it's not really going to maximize your program, being purchased at the end, so you may not be approved to be able to do that towards the end. So if you do have database software in there, make sure that you get it early, use it for the purpose of the grant. And just remember that June 1st date. Always make sure, you're internally kind of know that date so that you guys can go take one more look back before that quarter's up to know what you guys plan to do. Again, that's a 5 business day. We do 5 business days with everything now in our policies. That way things don't get stuck or get, stuck on somebody's desk and you don't have responses for several months at a time. We want to get it in, get it taken care of, and move it. So if Audrey does come back to you with questions or we have a question, make sure you get back with us in 5 business days, or we just kind of cancel that and we ask you guys to resubmit it. So just remember that, 5 business days. All right. This presentation is now going to be done. This is our finance team. Oh, this is so weird. Okay, maybe. Nope. It's just the way they have it set up, and I'm not.
They have the other half of the head.
Half of the heads are here. Jason is our CFO. There's Janelle Elizabeth, and then Rochelle Johnson. I don't know if any of you have ever met her. She typically works on our AmeriCorps grant, so she's usually at those type of trainings. And she does a lot of our emergency management stuff. So, but all of us are there. Those are our contact emails. If you have any questions, need to contact us, just let us know. So, all right, it is 11:14, and so what I'm going to do is we're going to stop here for a second and do a quick little, it's called the PIG personality test. Has anybody ever done that before?
Yeah, for sure.
Just a quick little icebreaker, kind of break things up. Presentation to presentation. Go right ahead. Sorry about that.
Yes.
Any questions? Did I miss anybody's question? Yes, ma'am. Yep, every year they're making it. We do it too. Yeah. We'll talk about that in our activity. But the best thing to do is your best thing to do in this homework is, so in the budget we had you guys round everything on paper, but when you're actually doing actual costs on an invoice, you're going to have your cents. What I suggest that when you're doing calculations, so if you do if your time ends up being 13.25689%, then do your calculation by that entire percentage and then round it off at the end. That way you get, you get the maximum for your percent. Instead of trying to round that off to 13%, because then you kind of really mess on that. And sometimes it's $2, and sometimes it could be $42. So you always do that at the end. And we have our activity. I'll show you guys an example of that. All right, so this is just another funny little way, kind of break things up for a minute, to kind of get to know each other. So I'm going to read out a few things. I want you guys to use this piece of paper to draw what I asked you to draw, and then afterwards we'll just kind of go over some scenarios based on what you guys do and how you do it, okay? And I'll catch them up when you do it. All right, so on the sheet of paper, I would like you to draw a pig. Okay, a pig. Boing, boing, pig, pig. All right? A pig. Just however you want to do it, whatever suits your fancy. I want you to make it as detailed as you like. Oh, is it big? Is it little? Does it have ears? Does it, what do they look like? Just whatever, a pig. You want to draw a pig. Just your version of a pig. Any way you want to do it. You guys want to do it too? Sure. I did this one at a training one time, and I really liked it. I was like, this is really cool, you know. So I thought, why not?
Drawing a pig. That'll come with all your fancy arts.
So draw a pig. Is it gonna go? So just draw a pig, be as detailed as you like. Big, little, small, medium, legs and legs. I mean, however you draw a pig. I love it. All right, is everybody about done? All right, so now that you've drawn your pig, I'm going to help you guys do some analysis to see what your drawing tells us about you. Okay?
No.
All right, so how many of you did your pig toward the top of the paper? So that is associated that you have a tendency to be positive and optimistic. How many drew their pig toward the middle? All right, this says that you have a tendency to be a realist. And what about towards the bottom? She said I'm scared. You have a tendency to be pessimistic and may be prone to behaving negatively.
Oh, that is negative.
I'm going to let you guys talk about it in just a minute. All right, so how many of you drew your pig facing left? It says you have a tendency to believe in tradition and be friendly, and that you may also be prone to remembering dates well. So what's the invoice do? Yeah. Very good. All right, how many did it facing to the right? You have a tendency to be innovative and active, but may be prone to forgetting dates easily and may not have a strong sense of family. Yeah, interesting. And what about facing front? The front facers. You have a tendency to be direct and may enjoy playing the role of the devil's advocate. You are also prone to neither fearing nor avoiding confrontational discussions. So those are our conflict resolution people, right?
Oh, is this facing?
So how many drew theirs with a lot of details? Like, I seen some hair on the back up here. Okay. It says you have a tendency to be analytical, but may also be prone to being cautious to the point that you may struggle with trust. How many didn't put a lot of detail? Anybody not put a lot of detail? Just kind of like a little face and some eyes? You have a tendency to be emotional and to focus on the larger picture rather than focusing on detail. You may also have a tendency to be a great risk taker and may sometimes be prone to reckless and impulsive decisions. Although that's a lot. I was like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I am an impulsive shopper, I will tell you that. No, I don't want to go shopping. And then I come out with 6 bags. So yeah, I'm impulsive. How many drew their pig with less than 4 legs? You may indicate that you are living through a major period of change, and as a result, you may be prone to struggling with insecurities. How many did draw the 4 legs? 4 legs. It says you may have a tendency to be secure and stick to your ideals. However, others may describe you as stubborn. What about with large ears? Did anybody have large-eared pig? Like the big ears? It says that indicates that you are a good listener. The bigger, the better. And then just one more. Anybody draw a long tail? Okay? That indicates how intelligent you are. The longer, the better. Now, how many of you think that any of those sounded like you? A little bit, maybe. A few.
You need to get a copy of that to Audrey so she can send it.
Okay, you guys are looking at it. Sure.
Yeah.
It says, okay, this was not a scientific instrument, so any truth it contained was probably accidental, and then it says, or was it? So. But I thought it'd be cute. I did it at a training one time, and I thought it was awesome because I did the whole thing. I did the curly tail, I did the hair, I did the whole. And I was like, what? No, that's not me. No. Yeah, that's me, you know? So I thought it would be really cool. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. But so we're going to go ahead and get moving. 12 o'clock, just so you guys know what the plan is. At 12 o'clock, we're going to get out for lunch. They're actually going to release them 10 minutes before us. That way we don't have all of the traffic out in the hallway at the same time. So they're going to do that. And then we're going to release at 12. And we're going to do lunch from 12 to 1. You're welcome to sit in here. You're welcome to sit with your peers, whatever you want to do. And just be back here at 1 o'clock. And we'll go through, we'll do our hands-on activity and kind of take it home for the afternoon, okay? I'm going to go ahead and let Elizabeth and Janelle come up now. And they're going to go through Laserfish training with you on how to use our new invoice submission portal. So you guys need to hold this up kind of when you're talking, okay, or at least stand close to it so that they can read the voice. The slides are here.
Just click it.
You have to click it. I don't know this unless you can figure it out, homegirl.
No.
And I will. I'll send this to Audrey and have it send it out to you guys as well. Okay? And then I've got these handouts for you guys too. For me, thank you. Yeah. Yeah. All right, ladies. Why don't you take it away?
Okay. Good morning, everyone.
All right.
Welcome to Laserfish Training. We are so excited to be here with you and all are happy you have joined us today. So we are now going to move on and show you how to submit your monthly invoice using the new and improved invoice and documentation submission portal. This is something that we work hard to create and are excited and looking forward to the benefits it will provide. So let's go ahead and get started. We have provided you with a copy of the slides for future reference and have also provided you with some of the common questions and answers. If during the presentation you have any questions, please write them down on the paper in the middle of the table, and at the end of the presentation, we will answer those questions. Okay, in this presentation, we will go over some of the session objectives and what is Laserfish, is an introduction to Laserfish. Learn the benefits of using the Laserfish portal. Know the Laserfish submission portals and web addresses. Understand how to use the invoice submission portal. And understand how to use the invoice update portal. Laserfish is an electronic documentation system that will now allow us to house all documentation electronically in one place, eliminating the need to print hundreds and hundreds of pages of documentation pertaining to invoices each month by eliminating the need to store countless paper files and eliminates the manual process. It will allow us to electronically review all submissions and has an easier search and find functionality that will in turn allow for a quicker review and processing of invoices each month. This means that instead of us having to look through all pages in the documents, we will be able to search more quickly for exactly what we are looking for. All subgrantees who have grants with Volunteer Florida will now begin to use Laserfish to submit all monthly invoices and documentation, and will also use for all monthly invoice communication and future documentation requests. The benefits of moving to Laserfish, in addition to no more boxes and filing cabinets full of files and papers, is that it will eliminate the use of the multiple email inbox that are currently being used for each grant type awarded. It will allow subgrantees to be able to upload one PDF file containing all documents pertaining the invoice submission without the need to attach multiple invoices files. You know, currently we have over 100 grantees, and some of those monthly invoice files are sent to us in 4 to 5 different emails with multiple attachments in each. With Laserfish, you will have the ability to combine all these files into one file and upload. No more standing at the scanner for hours and hours, waiting for the emails to send multiple attachments, only to find the email to be undeliverable because of the size of the attachments and having to go back, spend more time on separating the documents to get them to the size that can be sent. I know we feel your pain too. No more need to use Dropbox because the portal already provides the safety and security needed to send and store sensitive documents. And the best thing is that there is no size limit on the uploading file. So as you can see, the benefits of this alone are worth the switch over. And also, by switching to Laserfish and replacing our manual process and automated process, we are excited to announce that it will eventually allow us to be able to decrease our review and processing time from the current 45 days to 40 days. Stay tuned for future announcements regarding the decrease in processing time. We are working towards implementing that goal around December of this year. So you can see just how beneficial switching to Laserfish will be for now, not only us, but for you. Laserfish. So when official go live date was July 1st, 2021. So let's take a look at Laserfish and walk you through the new process. This slide gives you the web address for the original invoice submission portal. This is the portal that you will use to upload your original invoice submission. And right now, I'm going to share my screen, and Liz will walk you through how to use the portal.
Hey guys. So I want to reiterate that this is really important that this link is only for your original submission for that month. You will use a separate link for updating. So make sure if you do this twice, it'll submit to another folder, another instance ID, and we'll have to combine it. So just make sure you just use this link for the original one you're submitting. And then once you click that link, this is what you're going to see. And I'll go step by step about the information you do. So it's really nice. We're doing drop downs now. So you're going to click the arrow and you're going to choose your funding source. And then you're going to, below it, PER month, you can choose your PER month through the drop down. And then you're going to enter the 4-digit year of the invoice. And then you're going to choose your organization's name from the drop down list provided. So this cuts down any extra folders, any mess. We would just click your organization's name through the drop downs. You will.
Just 1 second. I just wanted to make a quick note. So for the funding source, you guys are all volunteer generation fund. So when you do that drop down, don't choose anything other than volunteer generation fund. It'll end up putting you guys into like this whole little loop of another world, and all the forms will be incorrect, and so we don't want you to get in that. When we say PER month, we don't want it to be the month that you're submitting it. We want it to be for the month that you're reimbursing for. So this one that you're going to do in November is actually going to be October, and then your PER year is 2021. Even though I know we're kind of in the grant year of 2022, we want it to be the actual month of your PER, okay? Go ahead, Liz.
And then you will upload files by clicking on the upload button and adding the file from documents. Or you can click on the file and drag into the field. And we want to make sure that you're submitting one file. So combine everything into Adobe PDF, and we'll show you how to do that. It's just the steps. And then for the PER submission, so this is a person. This is, let me go back to show you. That's going to be the submitter information, just letting you know that this will be the only person that will receive emails. We don't CC anyone else. So if it changes, you need to make sure that you update this. So you're going to enter the submitter's first name, last name. The title is an optional field. And then you're going to enter the submitter's email address, make sure it's correct, make sure it's going to the correct person that uploads and needs to know about if they need to upload additional documentation. And then enter the submitter's phone number, and then click submit. And then let me go back. So this is what you're going to receive when it confirms that you uploaded this. Pay attention to the instance ID number. It's really important for if you have to re-upload any additional documents, you need to make sure you keep track of the instance ID number. The instance ID number, if you see right there, it says your instance ID number 78. It's something for when you have to, yeah, it's really small. Yeah, go point that out over there.
Your slides.
Yeah.
So in the confirmation email, it's going to say, hey, thank you for submitting your October invoice. Your instance ID number is this. That number is something that is specific to your October invoice. So if I come back and say, hey, we're missing your pay stubs, you're going to need that instance ID number to attach those pay stubs. You're going to actually use another portal to submit. It's called the update portal. And that update portal is going to ask you for that instance ID number. So that when you upload those pay stubs, it's going to take those and directly put it right back into that original submission. If you don't use that update or that instance ID, it's going to create a whole nother file, kind of in oblivion in there. And then we're going to have to go look for it and try to find them. So, and a quick note about the instance ID number, that's going to be a different number for every PER that you submit. So it's not, the first one, this says 78. It's not going to always be 78. The next one you do is probably going to be, 178 or, something like that. So you just keep track of those and keep track of that email. Also, just a quick note on these emails. This email, the person the email is going to come from is actually going to be the financial analyst that's going to be reviewing your invoices. So if you have any questions, you need to contact somebody. You'll have their contact information. It'll just change depending on who we have assigned to review those grants. Okay. Go ahead.
Yep. That'll be the person you'll be discussing with. Okay. So if we need additional documentation, you will get this email, and that's called an submission update request email. This will provide you a link. It'll say, click here. And this is where the instance ID number comes into play. It'll also say that right there. So if you click that link, it'll take you to the submission update request portal. So it's completely separate from that original link. And here, you'll click that and you'll put your instance ID number in. And then right here is also the link, and you'll also get this with your documents.
I know, sorry, the screen's a little.
Yeah, it's
a little off.
Yeah, so this link is only used for updates.
Yeah, so there's going to be two. So there's two different portals. We suggest that you save each of those web addresses into your favorites so that you're able to just quickly pull one up. Hopefully you're not going to have to use the update portal very often because you guys know the documentation that's needed, and you're going to get that, the first time. But if not, just make sure that you save them in your favorites. That way you don't have to keep referring back. But it is there in that email, that clarification email.
Yes.
If you don't, so you will be able to just click there and enter that ID.
Okay, so this is what it's going to look like. It kind of looks similar to before, but this is how you fill it out. Okay, so you're going to enter the instance ID number that's specific for that PER month that it was in the email. You're going to choose the funding source, which is VGF. You're going to choose the PER month for the invoice that you're responding to. You're going to enter the 4-digit year. You're going to choose your organization's name from the drop-down list. You're going to enter the submitter's email address again, and then you're going to upload the requested information and you're going to click submit. Okay. And remember, you have 5 days for this for a response. And that's it. Any questions?
So, on the portal this year, I'm the one who kept sending you notes. And I would see my file in that little box. When I hit submit, you guys didn't get my file.
We've actually been going back and forth with Laserfish, and they're supposed to actually fix that. So if you have any issues, you just need to immediately let us know, and we're gonna talk to Laserfish and our correspondent there, and he's gonna try to see if we can get it fixed. So he should have gotten that fixed, but if I say it should be fixed and it's not, just continue to let us know, and we'll try to work out the kinks of it.
What I started doing is doing a screenshot where it says uploaded through the file.
That's perfect.
Before I hit submit, so that I
We'll
can
know.
attach that to you guys again, so that you can see it.
Yeah, that's.
I didn't. I was a real pain, and some of those I kept sending over and over and over.
The thing to remember too is that we've gone live in July 1, so we're also still working out a lot of the kinks. Getting it set up to work exactly. You can go through a process and say this is how we want it to work and this is what we want it to do, but until you actually put it into play, and we did for almost a whole year back and forth, just tests and running through the process and trying to find and work kinks out, and then they have kinks as well on their side. Sometimes if the internet all of a sudden goes out for 5 seconds and we've got 10 people that are trying to submit their invoice, and all of a sudden it was just out for that 10 seconds, and then we go back and we're like, well, we don't see any problem with it. But in that little 5-second instance, 10 people tried to submit and didn't go through. Those kind of things can happen and we have no control over. So if you do experience an issue like that, doing what you did is perfect. Let us know immediately, because we're able to reach out. They have a service guy with us. He is on it. He is within 5 minutes, sometimes, usually within 10 minutes at the latest. He is already on it and assigned it and working through it and figuring out what's going on, and providing resolution for us. So just keep us and let us know. If you're not receiving confirmation emails, let us know. All of that stuff we need to know so that they know, so they can maximize and get that system working the way we all need it to work.
It was just odd because it was working fine, and then
it happens. He's very good about it. As long as you let us know, and if that does happen and you're still having issues, make sure in the email just go ahead and send us the attachments and we'll put it in there for you. But we want to make sure we try to use this, but we're trying to work out all the kinks, and he's doing a really good job, so he should have fixed that for this upcoming year.
Yeah, and I find sometimes too when he makes other changes, it may change something else, and so it's just working those kinks out. We're hoping we're about out of that stage. It has been several months now, and for the most part, we've not really had a lot of those instances. I think the biggest issue we had was that organization. So if you went in this month and you said Big Bend Hospice, and then you gave me your October invoice, and then in November you just said BBH, it created a whole nother folder, a whole nother grantee, and so we were starting to get folder after folder after folder, which really we just want one folder with all of your invoices in it, so that, you know, if we ever need to go back, if we get an audit request, we can say, okay, da 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 da. So we just eliminated that, so nobody can physically enter in. Now it's just a drop down. You know, so just working through the system, working through the kinks, seeing what's working, what's not working. You know, we're still kind of doing that too. So just let us know if you guys have any. And again, here's all of our contact information.
We're a new grantee, so should we be in the drop-down list?
Yes.
Yes, we put you in there.
But we're not. Like, if we're not in there, I'm looking at it, so.
Okay.
Okay.
All
We'll make
right.
sure you
We
get in
will. We will ensure that they have updated, because we have to give the developer. We have to give them the new list so that it gets updated. So that we will make a note to make sure that that's looked at today. Yep. All
Any
right.
other
Do you want to go to the web page and actually show them how to, you know, what the file attachment looks like? It's staying on the screen.
Oh, one here.
Yeah. Yes. There's all of them, I think. There we go. Well, maybe not. Maybe we're not going to do that. All right. Let me VGF grantee listing. Yeah, the Wi-Fi's right here. Here, connect to that Wi-Fi. 8817. Nope, that's 8811. No, try to do 8811. See if it'll go. Yeah. Why is this one not coming up on here? This is 8817 ERS. Just cancel, because I don't have the password. There it is. And then we can get the password here. And 83. We got it. There you go. You get to our, I don't think you can get to our link from there. I think you have to actually copy and paste the link over. Okay. Okay, so here we're pulling it up here. We're just going to kind of walk through just real quick. Maybe. I think the Wi-Fi is very slow here.
Mm-hmm.
All right, if it's not going to work for us, it's not going to work. And that's okay. All right.
Oh, there it is.
There it is. There we go. So I wanted to show you in the supporting documents section, you can add your supporting documents 2 different ways. You can click on the upload button and you can actually, you know, bring something in from your files directly into it. Or just from this, you can go into your file and you can click and drag something over from your file.
So you go Volunteer Generation Fund, October, 1, and then we're going to pick.
Boys and Girls Club of the Emerald Coast. That's
Yep.
it. That's VGF.
And then you can upload right here. Do we have document?
Try to drop, yeah.
Try to drag.
Go to the D, see my Tracy D drive? Right there.
Yeah.
And go to VGF, go to 2122. Yeah, and then from there you're in the open. So I don't think it's gonna. There you go.
Yep.
So there, she opened it and she just dragged it and dropped it. Yep. And you got to let the white box come up.
Did you hit upload?
And no, upload. You would hit upload if you want to go to upload. Choose your file from there and click open, and then it would automatically attach it. If you want to just click and drag, you just click and drag it open.
Elizabeth, could I see if my program is on there?
Yeah.
Florida Veterans Foundation.
It should be because
You were a grantee last year, so
Yep.
yeah, you should be.
yeah.
So yeah, I'm just gonna make sure that they've updated for 21-22, just to make sure everybody's in there.
Like, we did the grant under Genesis.
Genesis.
And then we're DBA for it, so if there's ever anybody that is used to their company name, whatever name, you
That's-
have to know what your.
That is a good note to make. So in our accounting system, your name is based on your W-9. And your W-9 is based on, or the way we have to enter it is based on what you have on file with the IRS. So when you fill out the W-9 form, the top line that says to enter your name as it appears with the IRS, that is how you are entered into our system, and that is how you're entered into our accounting system, because we've got to issue tax documents. So if you're used to going by a DBA, your name's not going to be in there under your DBA. It's going to be under there as that legal entity name. So make sure that you look for that. I will have them make sure that's been updated. If you guys find that you're not there, contact us immediately and let us know. Okay?
I have a question.
Yes.
So do you prefer one document scanned out once?
Yes.
Or, because that's what we have been doing, or do you prefer it all?
Nope, we want one document, and I'm gonna actually show you that in our example. Today we're gonna kind of go through everything, but no, one document. We want, I mean, if you've got 10 Excels and you've got, 3 PDFs, we're gonna show you to open the PDF and combine all of those into one PDF and submit one file. That was the beauty of the Laserfish, and that was something that was slowing us down in our invoice review, was that a lot of, especially with like AmeriCorps, I mean, some of their invoices, we're getting 500, 600, 700 pages of documentation. And so we're getting a zip file with 17 files that have 200 or 300 pages in each file. And we were having to go to each one and print everything out. So that's the beauty of this. You put it all into one PDF form, and now we're doing an electronic review. So we don't have to go and pull and take 3 days to pull all your documentation and print it, to go and take another week and a half to go through all of it. It's all in one. And so, yes, we want one file, one PDF, uploaded, combined, everything together, including that PER form. That PER form, reimbursement invoice, that should always be the top form, and then everything behind it. And if when you do that, you can put them in order of the PER, that's even better. If you do anything personnel salary, timesheets, payroll, anything fringe, health insurance invoices, check stubs, proof of payments, and then database, like all in that order, it makes the review 100% better and quicker for us, and quicker for us to get that money out the door to you. So, all right. But again, if you guys have any problems with the system, let us know. We'll go through a little bit this afternoon in our review. I'll show you how to combine the document and upload it here again, and we'll run through that. But before lunch, since we're done with this, are there any other questions on anything from this morning? Anything from Laserfish?
Reimbursement?
Yeah, that's what I'm going to get you.
Should I wait?
Reimbursement for travel?
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to do now. So I wanted to go ahead and kind of open the floor for any questions regarding the travel. So go right ahead.
In my scenario, I'm here for today.
Yes.
But I checked in yesterday, so my organization knows that they're going to pay for one today. So when I send in the travel reimbursement, I just go for that one day. Or do you guys, like you said it in, it was on the master bill. So we had to put our credit card information.
You have to put your credit card just for incidental. So that's not going to directly be.
Well, no, when I reserved for them, they can only put the credit card and like that check in out. So there's
Right. You're going to be on a direct bill. So there should not be any charge to your organization for your.
So then if that's the case, then how would I even put that on? How would I put the
Yes, so you want to put your full travel. So if you were here yesterday and you stayed the night and you were here today, then yes, that needs to be recorded on the travel reimbursement form. That reason being that when we look at the bill and I see that I have a hotel night for you, but you only traveled one day, then I would question, why do we pay a hotel night and you only traveled one day?
That's what I'm saying.
So you're gonna put yesterday, and today. You're gonna claim meals for yesterday. You're gonna claim your portion of per diem today minus any of your breakfast and lunch. You're not gonna put anything for lodging because that's gonna be paid for by us. Parking should also be paid for by us. Nobody should pay parking. I'm gonna say that again, just in case you didn't hear that with Audrey. They offer parking vouchers, and so if you need one, see Natalie at that front desk out there, and she'll be able to give that to you so you do not pay parking, okay? If for some reason you already paid parking, put it in there as your reimbursement, and we will reimburse your agency for that. Okay? Yes, ma'am.
On the gas and stuff, it's only for,
Yes, so the way, did you get a rental car?
No, we have to come to that.
You have a company car, okay. So yes, you are allowed to do it. Yes, you can put the fuel for that. Save your receipts, turn your receipts in, and we reimburse for that. So with the rental car, you get a rental car and you get your gas for the rental car. And then tolls. Some people, we notice that there's no toll booths out there anymore. You can't stop and pay your own tolls. So you may get a toll invoice. We call it the toll tickets around the office. I got a toll ticket. And that is allowable to be claimed as well. The only thing with those is if you did it through a rental car agency, you may not get that thing for another month or two. You may not want to hold your reimbursement that long. So if that happens, let us know and you can resubmit another reimbursement to get those tolls back.
If you have SunPass, you pay that monthly, just automatic.
If
They issue an invoice?
And they won't issue it, and if you have SunPass and you went through it with your personal SunPass, they're gonna charge you.
Right.
And what you can do is you can turn that into your company and ask them to reimburse you for the portion, for this trip during those days, and then we'll reimburse for that.
So on SunPass,
Then you can get a printout of what was charged,
and for fuel, do you have to have actual receipt or do you go through mileage?
You have to have actual receipt, you don't do mileage. Only time we pay mileage, based on, because we follow the state of Florida rules, the only time we would pay mileage is when, it's more cost efficient for us. So most of the time, getting a rental car with gas is a lot more efficient and cost effective than reimbursing for mileage. So for instance, I know to reimburse for mileage from Tallahassee to here is about $270. But my office can rent me a vehicle because under state contract we get vehicles for $27 a day. So they can rent me a vehicle for 3 days and pay my gas down here and back and turn it in for less than $100. So they're not going to reimburse me for mileage. They're going to reimburse me for that. And that's what we would do to you. So if you drove your own vehicle, that's the cost analysis we're going to do for you, and we're going to figure out what's more cost effective. For you guys, I can't say that you should do it directly like that because if your policies and procedures say something different, you still have to follow your policies and procedures, with that. So, but when we do it, we're going to say, your job may say we're going to reimburse you mileage, but they would have to know that we may not reimburse mileage if it's not more cost effective because we're using federal funds. So we've got to follow what's more cost effective for us.
Is my car rental rate was not $27?
Is that gonna be an issue?
No, it's not. No, it's not. You'll get a receipt from them, and that's fine. We realize not everybody we're on the state contract, so we get state contracted rates. So we do understand that. Now, we may use state contracted rates if you drive your own vehicle to calculate what that difference is. Unless you can show us something, provide us something that it would cost you, more or whatever. Okay?
Yeah. The receipt for gas, if you didn't get a receipt at the pump, can you use credit card receipt and use credit card? But, you get no receipt at the pump.
Right.
But you charge it for credit card.
So, for us, we require receipts. We do realize that sometimes you cannot get a receipt. You may have forgot to. But you can go inside and request a receipt. If you don't have a receipt for it, then yes, if you can show us a copy of your credit card statement and certify that that's what that was for and your organization's okay with that documentation, then we'll accept it.
So I'm still confused about whether we can get reimbursed for mileage. It sounds like no.
So it depends on your situation. So tell me your,
Well, I just drove off, I'm sorry.
you just drove your own vehicle. Does your organization pay you for mileage?
Yeah.
Okay. So what we're going to do, because that's not one of our, because under state and Florida rules for our reimbursement, now it's okay if they reimburse you. But for us, like I said, it is a cost efficiency thing. So what we're gonna do is see what your cost is for your mileage. And again, that's another thing, state of Florida, mileage is only 44.5 cents. So if your organization does more than that, they're only gonna get 44.5 cents if we do. And then we're gonna do the rental versus gas based on the mileage. And then we're gonna, compare the two, whichever's more cost efficient is what we're gonna do. So there could be that you may not, it could be that you could, it just depends on that mileage and the cost for them.
So I could submit the mileage, and once I do like a Google Maps, you can start to see the mileage.
Absolutely.
And then just submit that, right? And then based on your rate.
Yeah.
And then you'll sort of see, well, you could have got a $15 rental car. Yeah. $15 for that.
Yeah, but not 15, but yes.
And then
At least 27, right?
And then it's one form per person, right now, one per agency.
One per person, yeah, we want to do per person. Makes it easier, and they've got to reimburse you. So you've got your agency has to do it first, and then you. So yeah, it makes it easier to it.
And then that form, that sample form, we use that, or are you going to send us an Excel form?
Well, yes, we're going to send that to you in Excel so you can fill it out. It's going to be the same form. Yeah. Did you have a question?
That kind of answers mine, because I'm the same, I'm kind of like, so my will pay me for mileage that you drive tonight. You guys might pay me what it would have been for a rental car, even though I didn't car.
Yes, and that could, and I want you guys to know that may happen. You may want to let your organization know that too, because that may make a difference in whether they pay you directly or not. If that's, your policy and procedure says that that's what they do, then great. But they'll need to know that we're not going to reimburse based on that.
That's a good question. So are you reimbursing the individual, or are you reimbursing the agency?
The agency. That's why they've got to reimburse you first, and then provide the documentation to us to reimburse.
If we have a stopping point, lunch is ready. I don't know if you want to answer a few more questions or whatnot,
Yeah.
or come back to it after lunch. But the lunch is literally right up here in the hallway. The hotel does need you to wear a mask to go through line. And then if you wanted to, as an extra precaution, a couple gloves that you could wear as you're lunching in utensils. But it's a buffet and soup and dessert bar, so you can go through at your leisure. And lunch is not, there's no content over lunch, so you can eat in here. You can go next door and meet with your program friends. You can go to your room, do whatever you would like for an hour, but we'll be back in here at 1 o'clock.
All right, are you guys
Yeah,
wrapping
they're
up?
gonna
We're gonna get
send
ready to get
it
started.
out.
Got some more handouts for you.
But again, smaller.
Lots of good information.
Yeah. So it's really interesting.
These are just some Q&A's from the laser vision presentation. Just if you run across anything, check these out. And then Elizabeth's handing out the exercise for this afternoon.
Don't be a hog.
Don't be a hug. They need to get some more of those.
Yeah, here too.
Thank you.
Let me know if you need any more.
Alright, so as I stated earlier, we're gonna do an invoice review hands-on activity. So I'm gonna show you, I've got a packet of documents that Elizabeth's handing out, and an ER form, which is our reimbursement invoice. You guys have everything, you guys have, anybody need one?
Sorry, hold on.
I was gonna be a blanket from the room.
Yeah. Good job.
Did everyone get one?
Did everyone get one?
Does anyone need one?
All right. Well, let's get ready to rock and roll here. All right, so this is going to be for our exercise. This is a packet of information that we're going to refer to in all of our exercises. The top form is going to be the PER form that we're going to put together to find out what Tracy's awesome volunteer services is going to get reimbursed for the month of October. If you look through the packet, we've got timesheets, so we'll talk about those. And then we got some other documentation as well for other expenditures within the month. So we're going to look at all of the expenses, all of the documentation. We'll show you what we're looking for in documentation. We will go through calculations. We will look at dates, and we will see based on a budget and the dates on the payments, which things can be claimed on the October invoice. We will actually fill this out and get it ready for submission. So everybody can see how things come together when you're putting it together. Again, if you guys have questions throughout this, I want to make sure we get through the activity. So if you have questions, if you'll write them on your papers in the middle, and then as we start getting towards the end, I'll go ahead and taking those questions and making sure that we answer anything that you have questions about. That way you're equipped once you leave here, you'll be experts in how to submit these monthly invoices, okay? All right. All right, so here we go. She probably didn't check on it, so we'll just kind of improvise on that. All right. So to start off with, just like I had talked about, the first thing you should be familiar with is your budget, right? Before you can put together a reimbursement invoice, you've got to know what you can invoice for. So this is the budget for Tracy's Awesome Volunteer Services. It lists where we're going to claim our expenditures. So if you look in personnel expenses, I've got Tina can do it and Jamie is doing it. Both of them are on my grant, so I'm going to be claiming their time. I've also put in my grant FICA, health insurance, and then other, which I know is not shown in here, but is actually going to be retirement, as you'll see in the documentation. And then I also have database software. So I've got a little bit of everything in my budget, and I've got $24,000 to spend, okay? So I know every month, I know what documentation I'm going to need to request. I need Tina and Jamie's timesheets. I need Tina and Jamie's payroll documentation. I'm also going to need documentation of the health insurance and the health insurance payment, as well as the retirement and the retirement payment, and the database software information, the invoice and the proof of payments. All right, so we're going to remember what we have in our budget. And now we're going to take a look at the PER form. Behind the first PER form, we have timesheet. Again, this is our Volunteer Florida approved timesheet. You guys are welcome to use it. It's great. It has everything that we're looking for in a piece of documentation. You'll notice at the top, it lists the employee's name, the company name. It lists the pay period start and end date. So it says it's 10/1 to 10/14. The timesheet is all the hours are from the 1st to the 14th. We've got a total for Volunteer Generation Fund, as opposed to all the other hours that were not Volunteer Generation Fund. And then at the bottom, it gives us a total of all your hours for the pay period and the number of hours that are for VGF hours. All the things that we're looking for in a timesheet. And then it also has the employee signatures and dates, and the supervisor signatures and dates, okay? So this piece of documentation is perfect. It is exactly what we need to support the pay period for, is this Jamie? Yeah, for Jamie.
That's a quick question. This question's been asked 3 times, but so is it okay just to type in the signature and that's considered an
Yes.
electronic signature?
Yep, that's what I've done here. Typed it on in, and dated it. The things we're looking for with the date, I stress the date, is that we don't want the supervisor or the employee signing the timesheet before they've worked the hours for the month. Okay? We don't want pre-printed timesheets where your timesheet says 8 hours every single day, same time every day. I mean, we want it to not be something that looks like you've just copied it and submitted every single month. We want the supervisor to sign it after the employee. We don't want the supervisor to sign off of it and then the employee to get their timesheet back and sign off of it after that. And just for, an auditing standpoint, not to say anybody would go back and change their timesheets or anything, but from an auditing standpoint, that's what they're looking for. So we make sure that everything that we need is on here. That way there's no question. You also notice there's the certification statement as well. So very welcome. This thing is very easy to fill out, very easy to use. Sometimes it's a lot easier than, you guys trying to manipulate your timesheet that you have. You can provide your timesheet and then also provide this timesheet and kind of summarize everything. It's just whatever is easiest for you guys because we don't want to make things more difficult. But whatever's easier for you to get that information across to us. But it must have pay period dates, name, the dates must match the pay period, the certification, signatures, and dates. Okay? Oh, and denote which hours are VGF and VGF only. Okay? If you're 100%, then yeah, all your hours are going to go on the VGF line. If your time is charged to 5 different types of grants, then feel free, fill them in. Tell us what all that is. Put your hours in, okay?
Do we have to do that?
I'm sorry?
Do we have to split down the other hours?
Yes, if you're going to use this timesheet, yes, you're going to have to show where those hours are. If you do 3 or 4 different grants or whatever, you could just have, other instead of administration, whatever, and put all of those in that line item and then for this purpose, we're trying, because we're going to use this to calculate your allowable time on the grant. And so we don't want this to just say 40 hours VGF because that really doesn't tell me a lot of anything. Because did you work 80 hours? Did you work 60 hours? Did you only work 40 hours? There's a lot of questions that I would have. So you want this to be a representative of your actual hours worked. So you make it work for you. All right. So I think what we'll go ahead and is move forward. And who is going to do the Jamie timesheet? You. Okay. So what she's going to do is she's going to come up here on the easel, and she's going to show you how to calculate the actual time based on this timesheet that is allowable to be claimed in October. Before she does that, I want you to turn a couple pages back to the pay stub for Jamie. And it should be the first one right after the timesheets. It's an employee pay stub. The employee pay stub. So let me go through that real quick and show you, okay? It shows that it's from Volunteers RS. It's Jamie. We paid Jamie. Shows the direct deposit. It's got a pay period, begin and end date. It shows the pay period begin dates 10/1 and 10/14. That matches the timesheet. So we're good to go. We've got a timesheet. We've got the payroll that matches it. The next most important thing is pay date, right? Pay date 10/15. October expense. So, yes, you can claim this payroll on this invoice. Another thing to note, this person worked 80 hours and this person is an hourly employee because there is a rate shown instead of a salary. So the way we are going to calculate hourly people is that we're going to take their total hours that they work for VGF and multiply it by their hourly rate, right? Easiest thing, how many hours you work VGF times your hourly rate. All right, and we're going to, is that Janelle? Yes. Janelle's gonna go ahead and show you that. Okay. And you have a marker? Marker. Jamie.
Okay. When I am reviewing, the first thing I will look for is the pay stub and the timesheet. Since we noticed that Jamie is paid at an hourly rate, I will take the 19.230769. I will look at her timesheet, and it says from the pay period of October the 1st through October the 14th, she is paid 19.230769 times 40. So I'll take this number times 40 hours. Which will give me it will give me $769.2307. And it's important that you know that we're not going to take this whole number. We're going to round up. Always just round up at the end. So it actually will be $769.23 that she will be able to claim for October.
Remember that's why I said in an activity I had something that was 19.230769. Don't round that off because you'll short yourself. It may only be a couple dollars. It may not be a couple dollars. It may be, $40, $50 difference if you take off that. So go ahead in your calculation, and do the whole calculation using the full 5, 6, 7, 8 decimals. Get your total and then round it off. That way you maximize what that reimbursement is. Okay? All right, so now we're done with that calculation. So right now what she has told you is for the 40 hours. The 40 hours from pay period 1 at their hourly rate is $769.23. That is the total amount that you can claim for Jamie for that pay period. Okay? We're now going to move on to the next timesheet for Jamie. The next timesheet shows the pay period start date of 10/15 and goes to 10/28. Same thing. It's got hours for VGF. It's got the hours for administration, the total VGF hours. It's signed, it's dated, everything's peachy, right? So now we're going to look at the pay stub for that pay period. So if you look at Jamie, the pay period, it's got the pay period, the direct deposit information. It's got the pay period date, 10/15 to 10/28. But then it says the pay date is 11/2, okay? So that means because even though the time was worked in October, it was paid in November, so we cannot claim that pay period on the October PER. So we're not going to calculate anything with that. So we're going to take that out. We're not going to worry about that. And you're going to move that to your next month's PER, okay? All right, so now we're going to move over to Tina, which is the next one. So Tina's timesheet. For the 10/1 to 10/15. 10/14, sorry. Same thing. All the documentation's the same. The time, if you look at the payroll, it was also paid on 10/15. So we can determine that we are able to pay or claim on our October invoice this payroll for Tina. Now Tina is a salaried employee. So we calculate her time just a little bit different because we have to come up with a percentage of time because it's not an hourly rate. You can also take that salary and convert it to an hourly rate and do it the hourly way. You're still going to get the same numbers within a few pennies here and there. So you can do that too. But we try to simplify it and just say do a percentage of the time based on your total hours, so how many VGF hours you've worked, divided by your total hours, get a percentage, and then take that percentage of your salary. The reason we do that is because if you do fringe benefits, we're gonna have to know a percentage. We're not gonna be able to come up with an hourly rate without doing something to find a percentage so that we can take a percentage of those benefits. It's a lot easier just to do that up front.
Okay.
All right, and Elizabeth's gonna show you that calculation.
Okay, for this time period, Tina worked 10 VGF hours. So you do 10, and then over the grand total of hours, which was 80. And then you should get 12.5%. And then from there, you're going to take her gross salary, and you're going to times it by that 12%. Which is 2,692.31. Sorry, that's the next. That's 25. Which you should get 336.538, but you can round then.
Yes. Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So let me go.
There you go. It's
Oh,
okay.
sorry, I don't.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, you don't want to go in that far. But yeah.
Okay, so we took the total VGF hours she worked over the grand total hours she worked for that pay period. And then you get the 12.5%. Then you need to multiply that by the gross amount of her salary that she got for that pay period. And this is what she can claim. And from here you can round once you get here.
All right, so you see she converted it, multiplied it out, rounded it off. So the total that you can claim for Tina on the October invoice is the $336.54. All right, and we already determined from the last payroll, the second payroll was paid on November 2nd. So we're not going to do anything with that for the month of October. We're going to move it. But again, you would just calculate the same way. You'll notice on Tina that her timesheet for the second pay period is actually a different percentage. She actually worked 25% of her time. So that means it's going to be a little bit higher than it was the first time. But we'll do that in November. All right, so now we're going to move down to the fringe benefit section. So the fringe benefit section, we have FICA, which we saw in our budget that we claimed FICA for both of the employees. And so we're going to calculate the amounts based on the total salary to find out the amount of FICA. So you want to go ahead and...
For Tina?
For Tina.
Yeah. Okay, so this was our amount. And we're going to take that, and then we're going to times it by 7.65% to get the FICA amount. And then this will equal 25.75. So this is a FICA percent you must use.
Yep.
Any questions? That makes sense?
Yep. And then Janelle's going to do the FICA for...
You don't get the whole amount of FICA that instead of the $336, whatever they were paid for the $2,692. Is it not 7.65% of that?
No, because the portion that's only VGF is what you can claim.
Yeah.
So you have to calculate it based on the VGF portion.
No, you're good. Yeah.
Understood.
In regular payroll, yes, that's how it works. Right. Yeah, they get you. They're not giving you, but you know. Here. All right, so she's going to do the same thing for Jamie.
For Jamie. For the 7, 69, 3 times the 0.765.
And remember, it's just FICA. It's not federal withholding, because federal withholding is not your organization's expense. That's the employee's expense. Sometimes that gets thrown in every now and then. So just make sure FICA is just Social Security and Medicare. Yep, 5885.
5885.
Yep. All right, so on your PER form, you should be filling in and the personnel expenses. For the first person was Tina. The total salary was $336.54. For Jamie, the total is $769.23. So that total for section 1 should be $1,105.77. So that is the total personnel. So now under fringe benefits, we've got FICA. So we've got $25.75 for Tina and $58.85 for Jamie. All right, so now we're going to move on to health insurance. So remember from our budget, we did have health insurance budgeted in our budget. So if you look in your documentation packet, you're going to see an invoice from Florida Blue. Okay, this is a typical invoice actually from Florida Blue that I copied. But it's going to list out the invoice due date. It's going to give you a billing period, which is very important. So I know what payment this is going to be for. So if you look, the billing period is 10/1 to 10/31. It gives all the group, it gives the bill, it gives me the total bill that's due. Okay, so that would be acceptable documentation for the invoice. The second page, which is very important, it also comes with the Florida Blue. It lists each employee individually, and it shows the total amount that the company is paying for each individual. We will need this breakdown from any type of fringe benefit documentation that you provide us. Whether it's dental, whether it's life, whether it's vision, whatever the company is paying, then you put in your budget. We will need a breakdown because we've got to be able to verify whether your calculation is correct and the percentages are correct based on your time on the grant. Okay? So if you look, we see that they're paying $745 a month, okay, for both employees. So we know the cost. We know it's for the coverage period, which is within the monthly period that we're trying to claim health insurance for. It falls under the grant period. And then your next page is the proof of payment. So basically, this is a check that shows that we paid Florida Blue the amount of $1,490, which matches the invoice, on 10/1, that's the check date, 10/1/21. And in the memo, it notes that it was for October coverage. So the invoice is exactly what we need. It lists out the employees. It shows me that the coverage period is correct for the year that, for the month that we're claiming. We also have the proof of payment that shows that you paid it in October. So we know we can claim the health insurance on the October invoice. So now we need to calculate how to calculate how much you can claim on the invoice for both Tina and Jamie based on their percentage of time that they worked in October. Okay, I'm gonna let Elizabeth know.
Yeah. For Tina, since she is a salary employee, we are gonna have to get the percent again like we did before, but for both pay periods this time because this is for all of October. So if you remember, the first pay period, she worked 10 hours of the grand total hours, which equal the 12.5%. And for the second pay period, she worked 20 hours for VGF over 80 hours again. And that's where we will get our 25%. From there, you will take both percentages from both pay periods and average them. So add them together, divide by 2, and this will give you the 18.75%. And from there, you will multiply the health 745 to that. And then this will give you your 139.68.
69.
69.
Yeah. Yep. So you see how we did that? Because the coverage period was for the whole month of October, we had to go back and actually get that percentage from that second. Even though we can't claim the payroll, we can go ahead and claim the health insurance. But we've got to have both percentages. So the quickest and easiest way is to take both of those percentages, average them together, get a total percentage, and then take that percentage, and that is your allowable amount. Another way you can do it, it's a little bit longer, but you can take half of the 745 and multiply it by 12.5 and take the other half times 25%. You're going to get the same amount, same number. And so the total for health insurance for Tina, is that Tina? Yeah. Is the 139.69. So you can put that on your PER form. Yes, ma'am.
So this is a great example. VGF so they do invoice the month prior for the coverage of the following month, and they are due the first of the month, so it's due on October 1st. So we paid it on like September 30th for October coverage. We would put that on the October bill.
Yes.
So it can be paid before the month, just not after.
Yes. Yes. As long as it's for the coverage period that's covered under the grant. So if you paid September is in August and September doesn't fall in the grant, you wouldn't want to be able to do that. But because it's for October coverage, you paid before, yes. Same thing at the end. If you paid, well, I guess that would be behind, but if you had to pay September's coverage and you paid that in October for some reason, you would be able to claim it on your final invoice because it's for the coverage period. Okay, and do you want to do Jamie for us?
Sure.
All right.
Even though Jamie is paid at an hourly rate, I still would need to find the percentage of time that was spent on the grant. And I will took the time sheet. The first one, I would have had 40 hours divided by 80, which would give me 50% spent on the grant. And then the other time sheet, the 25 divided by 80, what equals to 31.25 times spent. Add those two together, it comes out to 81.25 divided by 2, which equals 0.4625. I would take 0.4625 times $745, which will give me $302.65625. And so the amount that I'll be able to claim would be 30266.
Okay.
So that's the numbers work for you?
Yes. All right, so that's what we're going to write on your PER, 302.66.
So that works out fine as long as the pay period is around from the 1st to the 14th, to the 15th to the 30th, to the 31st. But what happens if your pay period starts in September and ends in October, and then I mean, that's going
Right.
that's going to create.
Yes, that's why the way I did this example, because we kind of have that issue now because you have a pay period that was paid in November, pay period in October, but you had to have October. So it goes by, for benefits, it goes by the coverage period. So yes, you may have to look at your last, if you, try to see how we do this here. So I'm trying to think of another scenario where it would be half and half. Because this is kind of, two different pay periods, 2 different months, but really you're looking at your coverage period. So that for the percentage of times that you're going to use, they have to come from your time that was worked in that month. So if you had a September that you paid in October, and then in October you paid in November, you're going to have to go back and pull that earlier, timesheet to get that percentage. And yeah, if you're like us, bi-weekly, and you have a third pay period of the month that is all within 1 month, then yeah, you're going to have to get all 3 of those, average them together, and get a percentage and calculate that time. So for fringe benefits, you have to remember coverage period. The percentages have to be based on the coverage period, not necessarily the pay periods. Yes.
So we would need to include a timesheet for whatever we use to calculate the percentage. Like our pension will often come out a couple weeks after a pay period, so I have to build pension like on a future month, but it will be timesheet from the previous month to show the percentage.
Yeah, that'll be your retirement. Yes. That's why I included it in here. So even though we're not using this November 2nd pay period, it's in here because we need it to do the rest of the calculations. Because that time fell in the October coverage period. So yes, you're gonna have to watch that. I know in a perfect world it's not like ours is like that too. Our retirement is like that. I do not pay it until the 5th of the month of the next month. So I'm doing the same thing. And we, actually for our state grant, we have an electronic timekeeping system, but we have to, for them, print out all of our timesheets, physically sign them, have our supervisors physically sign them. They don't even do electronic, any of that stuff. So it's just kind of depends, on your funder or whatever. So I'm glad that we don't make it that difficult. And that's why we came up with that timesheet. But yes, you will have to, if you fall into that non-perfect world where you're paying, after the fact and having to bring them in. So just remember, payroll salary goes by pay dates, fringe benefit goes by coverage dates. And then yes, you have to provide that because I would not necessarily know, what those percentages are. Okay. Any other questions? Yes.
So I decided when I did the budget to keep it simple with salary and fringe and all that. So that
So you don't need that. Yeah, you just need payroll.
So for here, I just put like the gross payroll, not net.
It is gross payroll, yes.
And then just calculate the hours off the time sheet. So this year I'll just self. And then for some of us, that are new, we're new, and we've got another Audrey that went to the background check. One employee, they will start booking hours on October 13th, another on the 14th. Then just pluck out the hours for those days.
Yeah.
And do that as a percentage.
Yeah.
What it helps too is this is being sent in. I think that in correspondence that you put in as one PDF. Would it help to do like a little budget narrative or explains it?
Anything that you can give us that explains that, yes. Yes. You can put it on the timesheet. If you're going to use our timesheet, you make a little note. Background check. We're really going to kind of know that because that's part of our review process is to check the NSOP. We call it NSOP or and so we check that beforehand anyway, before we review to make sure everybody has and that they have that check within. And if you don't, then yeah, we know to, kind of prorate that time based on the amount, or the date that you ran that check. Okay. Yes.
So the expense report, sorry, I'm taking you guys back. So monthly, when we send it out, one of the things that I need to be kind of catch up on last year when we were doing it. Do you want the salary amount that was included in the initial proposed budget, or do you want just kind of a balance of what's left on the salary amount for that person?
We want this based on an actual monthly period. So this invoice that you're filling out it's not a budget, it is your actual expenditure. So we want whatever is actual right now. Okay. So if it was $2,692.31, that's what you would put as the salary. And then the percent of time, 40%, and boom, it's gonna calculate it for you, and that's your percent of time.
Did you remove a column?
I'm sorry?
Did you remove a column, or was it always?
There was the only column that's been removed is the grantee share.
Okay, and that's what, okay.
Yeah, the grantee share, because we're not using it, so it was removed from the form. It was causing some confusion when we first took it out, because a lot of the people were returning grantees and they were used to using it, and we were like, there's no more match, don't send it to us, and then they were still doing match, and I said, well, let's just remove it off the form, it'll make it easier. So next year it'll come back, but yeah, the grantee share. All right, any other questions? We're all doing good? Okay. All right, so the next set of documentation in your activity after the healthcare is actually workers' comp. All right, so we included a workers' comp invoice. You note that the statement was 1/1/21, so here's one of those instances where we paid it way before the coverage period. But if you notice, the policy effective date is 2/1 to 1/31, so it covers the period that we're in now. So this invoice is a good invoice. It notes the rate that's being charged. So it says for every $100 in payroll, it's 23 cents. Okay? And then it tells us the monthly premium is $207. So we verified everything on this invoice. We verified that it's in our coverage period. It verifies the dates of the coverage. It has an amount, and it also tells me the rate. I've got to have whatever, if you did put workers' comp in your budget, I've got to have a rate. I've got to know what it is that is being charged, and it has to show whether it's on your invoice or if it's on a lot of insurance companies give you a deck page that lists out. If you've got 5 different levels of workers' comp rates, it'll list all of them out. You can provide that to me, highlight which one is, for your covered person. Just something where we can verify that rate and be able to make a calculation and determine whether it's correct or not, based on the percentage time for that month. So this is a perfect invoice. This is good. If you look behind it has the proof of payment. So it's got the check made out to the company for the workers' comp. And this specific monthly payment is for the October 1 to October 31st payroll. So we know that this is perfect. It was also paid on 10/8/21. So it was paid in October, so you can claim workers' comp on this month's invoice. But I'm going to go ahead and let them do the calculation to show you it. But if you remember from our budget, we didn't include workers' comp. So you're not going to claim it. You're not going to include it. You're not going to put it in your documentation, and you're not going to put it on your PER because it's not in your approved budget. But I wanted to go ahead and go through the calculation anyway, just so you could see it for those that may have the workers' comp. Okay? Elizabeth?
So for Tina, we are going to take that first amount, which is the $336.54, and because it is 23 cents for $100, you are now going to divide it by 100, and then multiply that by 0.23. And from there, you will get 0.774042 or 0.77.
So 77 cents.
And that's how much you can claim. A lot of money.
Yeah, so if that was on your invoice, and on your budget, you would be able to invoice the 77 cents for workers' comp. Right, and then Janelle's gonna do Jamie.
Okay, for Jamie, we'll take the salary amount of the $769.23. Divided by 100 times 0.23 equals 1.7692229. Sorry, I read that wrong. And so you can claim $1.77.
Now we know why they didn't include it in the budget, right? But just so you guys can see the calculations, yes, you'd be able to claim $1.77 if it was in your budget. And then you would just do that every pay period. But I wanted you guys to at least see the calculation if any of you had that in your budget. Okay? All right, so next is retirement. So I told you that we're now in the other section with dental, life, retirement. It could be anything else. There's a lot of other things that can go in there. It just depends on your budget. For this purpose, it's retirement. So we have Volunteer Florida are in the Florida retirement system. So this really kind of looks like the invoice that I get from them. And so I set it up this way. It lists out that the report month is for October. It lists out the total salary dollars that are being allocated. Bless you. It gives the employer and the employee portions for a net amount. And then it tells me the date paid is 10/6. So you cannot claim that one on your October invoice. You've got to also move this to your November invoice. I see this a lot with retirement. Again, I do it too. It's always the next month. So you're kind of always a month back in invoicing for us. But you will catch it up at the end on that final invoice on that last one that you do. So don't feel like you're going to be shorted a month when that happens. It's just all a timing issue. And that's just the difference from going from accrual to invoicing on a cash basis. Okay? So you'll eventually get up there. So for this purpose, I'm still going to let them go through the calculation with you. But for this purpose, we would move this to your November invoice.
So I have a question. This just came to mind. We don't bill for it on ours, but if we do an audit on our photo preview, which is our retirement, and if we find that it was incorrect, like they were matched incorrectly or they were given, we have to resubmit to you, and then
yeah, you would have to make it.
And if there's a reimbursement part, like if we owed you guys money, it just gets taken off the next per, or do you just pay back?
Yeah, you could do the next per. You could on the next monthly invoice say, hey, make a note. You'd want to include a note. Calculation was incorrect. We overpaid the amount by this much. Figure out what that calculation is for us. I mean, if it was $3, but for our per there was only 50%, then you need to take back $1.
Yeah, we just have a scenario where like bonus doesn't count towards the contribution growth, and some payroll sometimes got the bonus in there and inflates the numbers. So.
Yeah. So and you would we don't want you to after I paid out your October invoice, come back and say, here's another October invoice, we made some mistakes. You would just move forward. Once that's closed, baby, we want to keep that closed. And then you just move on. Another thing you can do is at the end of the year, again, do those adjustments on a final invoice. We have some, like in our AmeriCorps, they do member health care. And every year they get rebates, but it doesn't usually come every year. It might be 18 months after the grant closed, and hey, we got this rebate check from the insurance company, and now we're like 2 grant years ahead. And I'm like, I don't want that back, because now I have to give that money back to the corporation. And, with any federal government, it's not, not an easy process, especially on a grant that we've already closed. And now you've got to redo all of your federal reports, and you got to, that does happen. But try to do it within the year, within this grant year. If we can't, we understand. And then just make the adjustment and let us know what's going on.
For clarification, that last invoice after October is 2014, November.
The final, yes.
The final one. If the adjustments that are made there are solely for that period of in November, or I mean in the last part that's not paid in October
From September. Yeah, so that, again, that final invoice is for things that you've had to pay in the month of October that were actually for expenditures incurred by September 30th. So a lot of times, most of the time, that's payroll. Most of the time, that is a payroll thing. With VGF, we don't see a lot of the go back and, hey, you took this health insurance off my bill back in September and we never got it. And, we don't really see a lot of that. Most of the time, it's payroll, or most of the time, we don't see anything at all because you've expensed your database software, you've spent your salary by the 10th or 11th month, and the money's gone and you're good to go. But yes, that's why we do that 13th invoice, as we call it, to recoup that.
So in October, we have our cost of living raise for the year, effective January 1st. So the revenue for the payroll for October, like, we got paid in October, that was for January 2.
You're going to have a great scenario.
Yeah.
You're going to have to break it down, yeah. So what you're going to have to do is figure out what that, it's not going to be as difficult as what is the new salary? So what is the new salary based on what the cost of living increase was? You said it was retro back to January, so anything from January to September is not going to count. So you're really just going to take that base amount. And then you're going to need to include a note on the PER letting us know we're not claiming any of that other because that was part of the grant year. This is what the new base salary is. And we should start to see that on your, if you've done a one lump sum, then starting in the end of November, everything should be the same. But yeah, so note what that is, use that base of what it is now, based on what that increase is. Leave us a note, and that should be good. If we have any questions, we'll call you, we'll write you, and then you can get back with us and we'll talk through it.
Questions, thank you.
Yes.
So I realized that we wanted to do a payroll for the first, for the first grant year, and I know I have an outstanding of like $81. That's all I have. So do I submit an invoice that encompasses the full amount and we have the $81.50, or do I figure out the percentages to match $81.50?
You could do, do it like you would normally do,
Okay.
and then, don't ask for $3,000 if you have $81. I would just do your, invoice for the $81.50.
Yeah.
I wouldn't provide everything. If you got two people in the grant, you only got one person, and that one person needs the $81.50, provide one time sheet, one payroll,
Right.
$81.50, and a note saying, our grant, this is all we have remaining on the grant. Yeah. We're gonna see that too as well, but just to get into the habit of communicating and letting us know and helping, smooth along that process. But yeah, don't, if you know, which is good, we expect that. We expect you guys to know when you've got $81.50 left. So that's great. And doing your last invoice for that is acceptable. Yes.
If there's ever a point that we are unsure if our calculations of what we have left are correct, we can just reach out to you all.
Yep, and like I said, we did those revenue and expenditure reports with Audrey every single month, and she will report to you guys on a monthly basis, and let you know this is where you're at, this is what you've got remaining. We can provide those revenue and expense reports, she can provide them, so yeah, you can reach out to us anytime. Yeah. All right, any other questions? All right, I'm gonna let them do the retirement calculations.
Okay. So you remember when we take that first pay period, which is 10 hours over the grand total 80 hours to get our 12.5%. Then what you can use, you can only use the employer contribution. So for Tina, you can take 12.5% and multiply that by the $80.77. And this will get you $10.10 when you round. Which also is a lot of money. But any questions? Does that make sense?
Okay. And for Jamie, since the employer contribution paid was $46.15, we need to take the percentage spent on the grant, which was the 40, divided by 80, equals 50%. Then we're gonna multiply it. We're gonna multiply 46.15 times 50% or 0.50 will give you 23.075, which will give you claim 2308. And that's how you get that calculation.
Okay. Any questions on that? You guys are making me proud. No questions. It's going to be a great year. All right. Go ahead.
I will say,
They don't have the questions yet, right?
this is our third year, and they're very helpful. At any moment, if you have questions, even as a third year, I will still hit them up with questions, and we can't see my time response.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, so we're going to move on. We're doing. Oh, there's another question. Yes, ma'am.
I was just curious, like you said, like whatever we can do to make it easier for y'all to follow, and I get that. I get people to follow like what we're putting in and what to substantiate those amounts. So if we have some for like the current month period, and so you've got current month timesheets and the current month like payable and vendor invoices and things, and then we've got like previous month stuff too. Would it be better to put it in like the order in which it appears on here, or
Yes.
put it order by month?
Put it in order as it is on the sheet. So everything for personnel salary, so as I've done it in here, personnel salary, we got Tina and Jamie, both their time sheets, both their payables. Then we went into the second, the fringe benefit section, and we started putting the documentation. So yeah, put it in as it is on the PDF form. Makes it a lot easier for review, and yeah, it'll save us confusion that, why did she give us last month's pay stubs, and here's this month's pay stubs, and so yeah, it'll help with that as well.
So for November, if I have timesheet for November days work, but I've got pension for October, we want the October timesheets to show the percentage of the pension, right?
Yeah.
So you want October timesheets and then November timesheets all together with the salary piece, so you want the October timesheets with the pension?
Yes, I want that, because the October time sheets are going with the pension information, not with the payroll information. Yeah, that'll keep things separate, it'll keep things not be confusing, it'll save us questioning like, hey, what are you doing? So yes, so put it with what it is we're needing, to look at. Okay. Any questions? All right. All right, so we're moving on one more to the database software. So we saw that with database software that it was in our budget. And on this invoice, we have in our documentation from the Fund Software Company. Whoops, my thing's falling. From the Fund Software Company, the invoice is dated 10/1, so perfect. It's within, it's an October invoice. It falls within our contract period. It reads that we're getting an annual subscription for 12 months. It's telling me it's $74.50 per month for a total of $870. And that the coverage period is October 1, 2021 to September 30, 2022. So that falls directly within our contract period. So on a monthly basis, you can claim this. So this invoice is perfect documentation. And then on the back, it gives you the check. It shows that the check was paid to the Fund Software Company. With the memos, the invoice number, it's for $74.50, and it was paid on October 31st. So you can claim this $74.50 in the database software section of your PER for the month of October. Yes.
Do you want a copy of this invoice with every PER?
Yes. Yes, because this invoice is specific for October.
Well, it's for the whole year,
The subscription is for the whole year.
okay. So you want
This invoice date is 10/1. Yeah.
So along those lines, if we prepay for the year, like I've got 2 years prepaid, because 1 year is for this grant, then 1 year is for another grant, but it's still on one invoice. So as long as I break it down, you know, VGF does this, and at bottom, yeah, that's it. Yeah. As long as it shows the pay period.
Shows the coverage periods. And we're able to do that, and then we can do the calculation. If it's even better if it's October to September 2 years ago. But if not, then we know we can break it down into certain months that fall under this.
So wait a minute, for clarification, if we have the annual subscription and pay the full subscription at one time, don't need to submit this every month?
No, because if you pay the full prescription, prescription. You pay the full, if this check would have said $870, then you paid for it for the whole year, and it was October 1 to September 30th, then yes, you can claim the whole $870 and be done with it. This was a monthly thing. Yeah, this was a monthly thing because the check. But yes, now if your coverage, you paid $870 and say the coverage period was November 1 to October 31st, we would have to prorate that amount because it didn't start October 1, it started November 1. And it goes through October, but this grant ends September. So you would only get 11 months of that $870. Okay. Good question. Good question. All right, so on the PER form, you're going to enter that $74.50. And so now we've got our section 1. We didn't total section 2, but section 2, we had FICA for $25.75. For Tina, we had $139.69 for health. And then for Jamie, we had FICA for $58.85. And we had health for $302.66. So that total for section 2 was $526.95. And then the database software adding that $74.50. I have copies of these to give to you, a finalized copy of the PER with the total. So basically, with everything we went through, the total you can get reimbursed for the month of October is $1,707.22. So, I know that was a lot. We tried to go through everything, every little scenario. I know there's probably going to be some more things that you guys come up with. If you do, let me know if we didn't answer that. We're done a little bit early, so if you guys have any questions for me, if you brought your invoices or if you brought some documentation that you'd like me to look at to see if it meets the requirements, if you still have questions about your travel, I'll be sitting up here, and the ladies will be up there with me as well. We can answer any of that for you. I hope this was beneficial and helpful for you. I found that going through calculations was a little bit more than just the PowerPoint, this is what you need to do, and kind of make it real for you guys. So you've got the packets of information. I think that I've given you everything that I know for right now. So, like I said, if you have anything, you need us for anything, you run into something, you're not sure, give us a call, communicate with us. Just let us know if you do something different on your invoice. Let us know. That'll kind of save a little back and forth. It's our job to get that money out to you. We want you to get it to you and get it to you fast so you can continue to do the good that you do. Anybody else have any questions? Anything I didn't touch on? Anything you can think of?
Just a note, in the hours, we have salary employees and hourly employees, like we have in the same time on our grant. And if a salary employee reports more than 80 hours on their timesheet, you have to update that equation to show that it's not an 80-hour artifact because of salary. So for salary folks that work over 80 hours, you are gonna hurt your organization if you work over 80 hours. It's gonna lower the allocation percentage.
Yes.
Because
Yes, and that's a very good point for you to bring up, thank you. So on those, time sheets, if you are a salaried employee and you work 86 hours, we're gonna say, we are gonna use that 86 hours as your allocation.
That's what I'm treating, you go to payroll company.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, your timesheet or your payroll doesn't necessarily tell us that. Your payroll usually will always say 80 hours. So it's when you're doing your timesheet. So if your timesheet does report to us that you're working 86 hours and you work 90 hours, then yeah, your percentage is gonna lower, based on that, because we're taking that total hours that you work that month and dividing that out to get your percentage.
And that will take some, not so scary right now because the match is suspended, but when we come match time and you have to keep track of that employee to make sure that they are not hurting. If you're on you can always spend your money as soon as you want, but once it's gone, it's gone.
Right.
So, and if you're not meeting your match, you're not meeting your budget, you don't get chopped off, you get yourself on the radar.
Yeah. The good thing now is that there's not match, so we don't have to worry about that. With match comes a lot of other requirements, and you have to meet match, and if you don't, we can take your money, and it's just so glad we haven't had that over the last couple of months, or a couple of years. So it is going to be coming back for those of you that are new, that continue next year. It'll be a new thing for everybody to get back used to. But, we'll work it and make sure, like I said, we do that oversight too every single month. So you can reach out to us. We're not going to be, you're not going to put us out. We're already doing that internally ourselves, because we like to do the same thing. We like to know our spend down rates and how quickly and we have several VGF grantees that, yes, they go out and 2 or 3 months and they spend their money. They go ahead and get it out of the way. They do their project. They get their database, and they're done. And then they just got to worry about, their requirements with Audrey. Because I'm assuming you can't get all of your total volunteer hours in 2 or 3 months. So you still have that portion of everything, with her. But some we have that, some we, they make sure that person does 20 hours a month, which is that exact percentage, because that's what I budgeted for, and that's what I need to make this grant go 12 months, and that's what we're gonna do. And so we have, those as well. So. It all depends on what works well for your organization and your programs that you're doing. Okay. So we'll always work with you. Just give us a call. We make it happen. Yes.
And to start with everything, you have to do background check and the laser fish training.
No, laser fish training is what we had today. The trainings you're talking about are the background check and the financial training through witness. And you can find that information in your contract with the, and then I think even in the PowerPoint she provided the address of how to do that in your organization. Yeah, they have those, you can't get reimbursed. So yeah, this has to be done, and then she's running all the background checks, so I think she said everybody was good, so that's a good thing. So, in the past, that was not always a good thing, and we had I remember one time we had a grantee that went 8 months without a background check. And we had been paying them, and then we went on a site visit, and they had not done the background check. And so they had to pay us back all the money that they had gotten because they had the background check. So that's why, I'm glad we kind of went to this whole field print tree screen thing and simplified it a lot easier, and now we're able to do it for you guys. So that takes the legwork and guesswork and everything out of that, and has cut down significantly on anything like that. Like these last 2 years that we've done it, it has been so successful that I've not even had to deal with that with VGF. Maybe once, and that's only because we started her 30 days ago and we forgot to run the background check and we forgot to take Jody off, and so maybe 30 days, but they're able to catch that back up. 8 months is a little bit harder, especially for a nonprofit, and you don't have a lot of cash flow sitting in the bank to do that kind of thing. So, but anyway, thank you guys for everything. I hope everything was good for you guys. Yay! Thanks to my ladies; they did well with the calculation.